A child born into luxury should never have blood on her face. Yet Serena Violet returns to the mansion as calmly as if nothing happened. When a servant notices the stain, Serena can only reflect on the impossible truth she still struggles to accept. That truth began with death. In her previous life, Serena was a nameless assassin who failed a mission, lost everything in an instant, and somehow opened her eyes again inside the body of a nobleman's daughter. The memory of her final assignment remains brutally clear. Her terrified target begged to be spared. But Serena had been raised to treat killing as ordinary work, leaving no room for mercy or hesitation. Even hunger had become normal to her back then. After finishing the kill, Serena coldly wiped away the blood and thought only about how long it had been since she had eaten decent bread. Her next order was job number 9956. Assassinate the crown prince despite impossibly tight security. Serena showed no fear, because killing was the only purpose she knew, and death merely meant she had been too weak to survive. The crown prince's retainer intercepted her before she could reach the target. Though Serena recognized the knight's strength, he refused to stand aside, declaring that he would gladly die if it meant protecting the prince. That answer confused Serena more than any weapon could. Someone willingly sacrificing his own life for another person seemed utterly irrational to a girl who had never been protected by anyone. Still, neither warrior backed down. Serena insisted that she was only completing her job, and the two ultimately struck each other down, ending the assassin's first life without fear, regret, or anyone waiting for her return. Her next awakening could not have been more different. Reborn as Serena Violet, she found herself surrounded by affection in a noble household, and the neglected orphan, who never cried suddenly, had no idea how to respond. Serena was now the daughter of a duke in the kingdom of Astra. In her old life, she had grown up in the slums, obeying every order to kill. Now parents and servants showered her with comfort, while asking nothing in return. Years of infiltration training helped Serena imitate a proper young lady, even if the role still felt unnatural. During a peaceful tea party with her mother, however, a barking dog suddenly charged into the garden and shattered the calm. Serena reacted before anyone else could understand what was happening. As the animal collapsed, the horrified noblewomen stared at her, while Serena genuinely wondered why everyone was making such strange faces. Her mother condemned the violence, insisting that an animal should never be treated so cruelly. Serena calmly argued that the dog attacked first, and that defending herself was natural, exposing the enormous gulf between her brutal past and this sheltered world. Realizing that honesty would only frighten them further, Serena quickly changed tactics. She apologized, claimed she had simply been scared, and promised never to do it again, perfectly performing the remorse everyone expected from a child. Yet the night from her final mission returns to Serena's thoughts. She still cannot understand why someone would risk death to protect another, until a young girl arrives and apologizes because her dog, Bruce, ran into the estate. Serena allows the girl to bring Bruce inside for treatment, but her instincts never relax. A harmless-looking child could still be an infiltrator, and Serena notices with concern that this new body has not lost its natural awareness of danger. The attack also reveals how physically weak Serena has become. A cake knife and her entire body weight were barely enough to stop the dog, convincing her that she must rebuild the strength she possessed in her former life. The household soon decides to adopt the orphan girl, Rosemary, believing fate brought her and Bruce into their garden. While everyone celebrates Serena gaining a little sister, Serena privately wonders whether wealthy nobles are simply far too trusting. Rosemary tries hard to smile and behave normally, but Serena notices the fear beneath her childish appearance. Surrounded by adults and dressed in unfamiliar finery, the orphan seems painfully vulnerable. While Bruce now avoids Serena after being stabbed, Serena concludes that having Rosemary nearby may actually help her training. A duke's daughter exercising alone would attract suspicion, but playing with a younger sister gives her the perfect excuse. And 6 years quietly pass. At 12 years old, Serena has transformed her fragile body through relentless basic exercise. She can now use both hands effectively and has recovered a meaningful portion of the deadly skill she once possessed. Physical strength is not enough, however. Serena is tired of relying on kitchen knives, yet the mansion's adults watch her closely and keep real weapons out of reach, despite how essential a blade feels to someone raised for survival. Determined to solve the problem herself, Serena sneaks out disguised as a commoner and exchanges jewelry for cash. She heads directly to a weapon shop, searching for the familiar dagger she used throughout her previous life. Serena finds a blade light enough for her current body, but the shopkeeper dismisses her as a child and orders her home. No matter how clearly she asks to buy it, he refuses to waste weapons on a little girl. Instead of arguing, Serena lets her presence turn cold. One silent step forward is enough to make the shopkeeper realize that the child in front of him is far more dangerous than she appears. When Serena asks again, the terrified man immediately wraps the dagger and addresses her with trembling respect. She finally obtains the weapon, though she finds it deeply annoying that her childish body makes even a simple purchase difficult. A stranger who witnessed the exchange approaches her outside. Impressed by the trick she used to intimidate the shopkeeper, he recognizes that Serena is already remarkably experienced despite her age. The man's appearance marks him as a high-ranking noble, but his overwhelming presence tells Serena something more important. He is also a professional who belongs to the same shadowy world she once knew. He sees through Serena's commoner disguise immediately and identifies her as Lady Serena Violet. Introducing himself as Rick Oswald, the king's nephew, he hints at his dangerous reputation before getting directly to the point. Rick offers Serena a place working under him. Rather than threatening her secret, he invites the Reborn assassin into an organization where her hidden talents can finally be used again. Rick brings Serena to the Assassin's Guild concealed beneath respectable society. He explains that someone must remove threats the law cannot touch, and that his position allows him to carry out the king's dirtiest requests from the shadows. The guild is short-handed, so Rick wants Serena to accept missions despite her noble birth and young age. Rank means nothing to him. Her ability is already sufficient, and he believes her work could protect the kingdom. Serena accepts because eliminating dangerous people will also keep her own family safer. Payment matters less than freedom and purpose, but her constant supervision as a duke's daughter creates an obvious obstacle to leaving the estate. Rick has already prepared the solution. A girl named Shia can perfectly copy Serena's appearance with a disguise and alter her voice through a mana stone, allowing the real Serena to disappear on missions without raising suspicion. Serena is fascinated by the ancient mana stone and the Sigoldscore's resources. Rick warns her not to stare too deeply into the mysteries surrounding him, but she quietly realizes how much this new world still has to teach her. Back at the mansion, Serena introduces Shia as a new maid alongside Marin. Their sharp exchange immediately shows that the arrangement will not be entirely peaceful, especially when Shia criticizes Serena's noble education and attitude. The household faces another problem when Serena's father, Alto, returns and learns that Rosemary was adopted without his permission. He worries that the former commoner lacks the education expected of a duke's daughter and could become a lasting scandal. Alto argues that sending Rosemary back would now create even worse rumors. Their only practical choice is to educate her, then eventually marry her into a lower-ranking noble family, so the adoption does not damage the house. Amaryllis refuses to treat Rosemary as a temporary burden. Since the adoption is already complete, she vows to raise the girl as her own flesh and blood, a determination Serena quietly respects, even while questioning its emotional logic. Alto privately wonders whether Cersina truly feels like their child, because her distant behavior is impossible to read. Amaryllis answers by smothering Serena with affection, convinced that her daughter is simply seeking more attention. The adults decide Serena may have been given too much responsibility for her age and promise to spend more time with her. Serena plays along, but internally admits that an assassin from the slums can never fully understand such a sheltered family life. Soon Shia arrives with Serena's first official guild mission. The target is a baron's family that has repeatedly threatened the kingdom, and Serena accepts without caring about their excuses. An assignment is an assignment. Disguised and already inside the estate, Serena waits until tea is served before revealing herself. The Baron barely has time to demand her identity before realizing that death has entered his home. The terrified noble offers money, then even his own son and daughter, if Serena will spare him. His willingness to trade his children for survival disgusts her, especially after witnessing people in this life who would die to protect someone else. Serena asks whether the Baron truly believes his life is worth more than his children's, simply because he is a noble and a parent. Titles mean nothing to death, and no human possesses some absolute value that guarantees survival. To Serena, nobles and starving children from the slums are equal in the end. Both are fragile, mortal, and ultimately powerless. The Baron's arrogance only confirms how easily privilege convinces people that they are special. With the mission concluded, Serena leaves behind a silent room and one final judgment. Nobles, she decides, are an unbelievably strange group, obsessed with status even when a blade is already at their throats. Serena returns to the guild and reports no complications. Rick praises her work, while a message from Alto reveals that her father has repeatedly asked to see her and is trying to honor his promise to spend more time together. Rick is startled when Serena reminds him she is only 12. Though curious about how someone so young became this capable, he respects their agreement not to pry. And Serena leaves with Shia after only a few weeks of guild work. Alto prepares to travel abroad again and entrusts the children to Amaryllis. Before departing, he sincerely tells Serena to ask for anything she wants, convinced that fulfilling her wishes might finally help him become closer to his unreadable daughter. Alto's farewell embrace leaves Serena far more unsettled than any blade. She is not used to being held with genuine affection, and when Rosemary eagerly asks for a hug as well, the family sends him off beneath a warmth Serena still cannot understand. Even so, Serena recognizes that Alto is nothing like the parents from her first life who discarded her without hesitation. Compared with that cruelty, his clumsy concern feels almost gentle, and she admits that being born into this family may have been an extraordinary blessing. For one quiet moment, Serena wonders whether she could have lived happily among them if the memories of her previous life had never returned. Without an assassin's instincts haunting every kindness, perhaps this peaceful mansion truly could have become home. Rosemary's feelings are far less peaceful. Convinced that Serena stole her necklace, the adopted girl lashes out, while Serena reflects that someone like her was never meant to fit naturally into this bright and innocent world. Rosemary tells the other young ladies how her parents died in an accident and how she was adopted into a duke's household. She presents her new life like a fairy tale, delighted that an ordinary commoner has suddenly become something close to a princess. Behind that cheerful story, however, Rosemary resents Serena. She sees the Duke's real daughter as arrogant, cruel to Bruce, and unfairly loved by Alto, convincing herself that she deserves the family's affection far more. The missing necklace is discovered inside Serena's desk, and Rosemary immediately treats it as proof. Serena calmly asks why anyone should assume she is guilty when no one actually saw her steal it, but suspicion has already spread through the room. Marin steps between them and reminds Rosemary that Serena is still a member of the ducal family. Rosemary snaps that a mere maid has no right to interrupt, revealing how quickly the former commoner has begun using noble status against others. Rosemary insists that the evidence is undeniable, and even suggests Serena planted the necklace herself or ordered a maid to do it. Serena listens without panic, already recognizing how carefully the accusation has been arranged. Serena points out the obvious weakness in the scheme. Hiding stolen jewelry in her own room, while absent, would be absurdly convenient. Rosemary cannot stand being challenged and accuses Serena of distrusting everyone, despite being the one who began the accusation. Rather than defend herself emotionally, Serena tells Rosemary that a convincing victim would have cried herself to sleep, instead of staging such an embarrassing display. Rosemary fires back that Serena is jealous of her, but the accusation only leaves Serena genuinely puzzled. Serena flatly denies feeling jealous or spiteful. Rosemary's claim that Serena despises her for being a commoner only exposes how desperately she wants to frame every conflict as noble cruelty. Serena asks whether Rosemary actually wanted an older sister who envied her. When Rosemary claims nobles could never understand hunger or gutter water, Serena's expression hardens, because those are precisely the hardships her previous life taught her better than anyone. Rick's investigation has already uncovered the truth. Rosemary's original family was neither destitute nor uneducated. Unlike children forced to work as soon as they could walk, she never knew the gutter at all, making her dramatic claims ring painfully hollow. Before the adults can stop her, Serena seizes Rosemary and moves with frightening speed. Everyone assumes violence is about to erupt, but Serena has chosen a lesson far more humiliating than a simple blow. Rosemary is thrown face first into a muddy puddle. As she coughs and gags, Serena watches without sympathy, forcing the self-proclaimed victim to experience even the smallest imitation of the suffering she boasts about understanding. Serena explains that rainwater outside a mansion is still nothing like true gutter water. Nevertheless, Rosemary now knows at least a fraction of its taste, and Serena warns her never to romanticize misery she has never endured. Covered in mud and trembling with humiliation, Rosemary stares up at Serena after her first so-called taste of the gutter. Serena's calm smile makes the message unmistakable. Lies about suffering will not work on someone who actually survived it. Later, Serena reports the situation to Shia. Rosemary has been provoking her repeatedly, seemingly determined to paint Serena as a villainess, while winning sympathy from everyone in the mansion by hiding her own calculated behavior. The scheme is already succeeding. Rosemary has Amaryllis and several maids wrapped around her finger, causing Serena's mother to avoid her like a plague. But the family drama must wait, because Rick has another mission ready for the following day. Inside the target's dungeon, a prisoner begs Serena for help while the noble responsible for his suffering lies defeated. Serena opens the cell after completing her assignment, though she has no reason to become involved beyond that point. A faint voice catches her attention among the bodies. Serena discovers a black-haired boy chained in the darkness, injured, starving, and abandoned after the people who owned him were killed. The collar and scars reveal that he is a slave. Serena studies the silent child for a moment, recognizing the same empty resignation she once carried through the slums and assassination facilities of her first life. Without fully understanding her own impulse, Serena reaches out and asks whether he wants to leave with her. The boy can only stare at the hand being offered, as though kindness is more frightening than the dungeon around him. Years later, Serena will still wonder why she extended that hand. Perhaps she saw herself in him, or perhaps the night's sacrifice had changed something she refused to admit. But that single gesture alters both of their lives. Serena brings the rescued boy to Rick and explains that she found him in the target's dungeon. Rick is surprised that the normally detached assassin chose to take responsibility for anyone, especially a child marked as dangerous. The boy's black hair and red eyes identify him as a survivor of the warring tribe, a militant people whose physical strength surpassed normal humans. Neighboring countries united to destroy them, leaving the few survivors feared and hunted. Because he was only a child when the tribe fell, he was likely captured alive and sold by slave traders. Serena tells him he could escape now, if he wished, but he has nowhere to run and no home left to return to. The boy's silence hides memories of rage and loss. His people were hated by countless enemies, and the cruelty that followed their defeat taught him that mercy would never come from the world outside. Serena decides that if one member of the tribe has survived, she might as well take him with her. It is a practical excuse for an emotional choice she still refuses to name. The boy remembers his family's final stand and the terror of watching his parents die. He never understood why they chose battle when survival seemed impossible, because he did not want honor. He only wanted them to live. After the massacre, frightened voices called him a monster and begged for protection. Surrounded by enemies, the child acted before anyone could hurt him again, crossing a line that would haunt him through every owner that followed. He cannot clearly remember what happened after that first killing. He only knows he was sold from one master to another, enduring abuse, while waiting for a chance to escape, and believing his suffering was punishment for his crime. Serena challenges that guilt directly. She asks whether killing the person who threatened him was truly wrong, and whether accepting the moral judgment of comfortable strangers has ever made his pain easier to bear. In her previous life, Serena heard countless people declare that murder was wrong, yet those words usually came from people who had never been cornered, hunted, or forced to choose between killing and dying because others protected them from such realities. This world is not a gentle fairy tale. Serena tells the boy that no one else will always save him, so he must possess the strength to protect himself, and he has no reason to drown in guilt for surviving. Her conclusion is brutally simple. If he had not killed that day, he would have been the one lying dead. Survival itself is enough justification, and he may take comfort in the fact that he is still here. Rick admits the guild has little use for the boy, while he remains unable to fight. Since Serena found and rescued him, responsibility falls to her, though she already believes his unusual bloodline may become valuable with proper training. Serena brings the runaway slave home and proposes making him her personal butler. Amaryllis is startled by another unexpected addition to the household, but the boy has nowhere else to go, and Serences refuses to abandon him now. Amaryllis welcomes him warmly, promising he will always have a place in their home. Serena gives him the name Tiger and bluntly explains that his main duty will be taking care of her, beginning with learning to read and write. Tiger's education will not stop at letters. Serena intends to teach him self-defense assassination techniques for emergencies, and the etiquette required inside a ducal household, while ordering him to keep her guild work completely secret. From that day forward, Tiger absorbs everything with astonishing speed. Earnest, disciplined, and gifted with the warring tribe's blood, he proves especially talented with weapons and grows into the role Serena created for him. Rosemary soon complains to Tiger about Serena, showing him the marks from their latest clash and calling her older sister the worst. Tiger listens politely, but he already understands that Rosemary often avoids her studies and provokes Serena first. When Rosemary admits she is taking another break, Tiger reminds her that children her age are far ahead academically. She tries to use her commoner birth as an excuse, but Serena has heard that defense too many times. Serena warns that Rosemary cannot claim noble privilege while refusing noble responsibility. If she intends to remain a duke's daughter, she must put in real effort. Furious at being cornered, Rosemary screams that she hates her big sister. Rosemary immediately runs to Amaryllis for sympathy. The servants notice the troubling pattern. The adopted daughter is comforted like the family's true child, while Serena, the actual heir, is treated as the cold aggressor. Serena makes no attempt to repair the misunderstanding, because being isolated does not particularly bother her. The household's opinions matter little compared with her missions, though Tiger cannot understand why Amaryllis appears to dislike her own daughter. The more Tiger observes Serena, the more mysterious she becomes. She is younger than him yet speaks like an adult, lives as a duke's daughter, and secretly works as an assassin. Rather than fear her, he wants to remain close enough to understand her. Tiger vows to become useful so he can stay beside Serena for a long time. She reminds him that she intends to release him from slavery eventually, but his relief and loyalty show that freedom is no longer the only future he desires. By the time Serena's social debut approaches, Tiger has grown into a capable and polished butler. Rick visits for tea and praises the transformation, but the conversation soon returns to the household's unresolved problem. Rosemary. Rick explains why Rosemary's lack of discipline can no longer be ignored. She has barely learned the minimum required for noble society, yet an important tea party may determine the prince's future fiancée, and one careless mistake could disgrace the entire Violet house. The possibility instantly excites Rosemary, who imagines herself marrying a prince. Amaryllis hopes the dream will finally motivate her to study, while Rick quietly asks Serena to observe Shenna, the daughter of Marcus Rodwell, during the gathering. Serena agrees without asking unnecessary questions. At the crowded tea party, she remains alert, calmly scanning the young nobles, while Rosemary throws herself into the glittering fantasy she has always wanted. Sheena Rodwell approaches Rosemary with polished cruelty, mocking the commoner, adopted by House Violet while pretending to be delighted by their meeting. Rosemary misses the insult entirely, but Serena immediately recognizes every poisoned word beneath the smile. Serena changes the subject, before Rosemary embarrasses herself further, and compliments Sheena's expensive dress. Sheena proudly reveals that it was custom-made from rare muspel silk, purchased specially by her father for social occasions. That extravagance confirms Serena's suspicion. House Rodwell supposedly earns its wealth through weaponries, yet peaceful times should have reduced its income, meaning the family may be secretly selling arms abroad, exactly the crime Rick wanted her to investigate. When the princes arrive, Rosemary eagerly drags Serena toward them. Serena refuses, exhausted by the crowd and the performance of nobility, so Rosemary rushes ahead alone while her older sister remains in the corner. A group of young nobles begins mocking Serena's commoner-like behavior. Lady Scarnet, an earl's daughter, mistakes her for Rosemary and condescendingly praises the adopted girl for knowing her place, until Serena's patience finally begins to crack. Serena's killing intent leaks out as the insults continue. In her mind, every chirping menace can be silenced with a single strike, because status means nothing when all people die the same way. Before Serena acts, Prince Evan steps between them. His sudden appearance shocks the entire gathering, and Serena is startled by the strange familiarity of his face. Evan identifies Serena correctly and asks why the others are harassing a duke's daughter. When the nobles claim they were merely teaching etiquette to a commoner, he dismisses them as lovesick fools and checks that Serena is unharmed. Rosemary rushes over, assuming she has caused another problem. Evan's expression changes the moment she speaks, while Serena quietly realizes that the prince's presence has completely overturned the atmosphere. Evan brutally calls out the idiot speaking from behind him, forcing Rosemary into terrified silence. Serena apologizes for her sister's poor manners and decides to leave before the scene becomes an even larger scandal. Rosemary protests because she has not eaten any sweets and the tea party is still underway. Serena ignores her complaints, orders Tigger to escort them, and drags the adopted girl away before she can disgrace the family further. Amaryllis later sighs that the gathering ended exactly as she feared. Rosemary blames Serena's antisocial behavior, while their mother gently asks Serena to make a greater effort to socialize. Serena responds that Rosemary's complete lack of common sense was the real problem. She refuses to accept former commoner as a permanent excuse, reminding Rosemary that she enjoys noble luxury while claiming to understand hardships she has never faced. Serena admits that the world is unfair and birth determines far too much. Yet if Rosemary insists on remaining a noble, she must accept its responsibilities. Otherwise, neither nobles nor commoners will respect her. Amaryllis asks everyone to overlook Rosemary's behavior just this once, but Serena knows repeated indulgence will eventually ruin the house. Later, while preparing for another job, she bitterly wonders whether Rosemary is now treated more like the family's real daughter. Tigger admits that most outsiders would probably mistake Rosemary for the true daughter because Amaryllis favors her so openly. Serena cannot understand why her mother refuses to see the political logic behind her warnings, even when Serena is objectively correct. Tigger suggests that the problem may be Serena's delivery rather than her reasoning. The information gathered at the tea party is passed to Rick, and the complicated social conflict is replaced by something Serena finds far simpler: assassination. For Serena, removing enemies in the shadows is infinitely easier than navigating noble emotions. With one clean strike, she begins dismantling the conspiracy connected to House Rodwell. Soon the Rodwell family is officially reported murdered during a robbery gone wrong. In reality, evidence of illegal foreign weapon sales made them too dangerous to prosecute openly. Shenna was spared, renounced her name, and entered a nunnery under royal surveillance. Serena considers the outcome cold but perhaps merciful. Shayna may never call it a happy ending, yet the girl escaped her family's death sentence and has a chance to build a life far from their crimes. The next crisis arrives from inside Serena's own home. Rosemary has received a marriage proposal. The candidate is Prince Heinrich, notorious for his obsession with wild beasts, and Serena cannot believe any prince would genuinely choose her sister. Amaryllis proudly announces that the proposal comes from the second prince. Rosemary is ecstatic and immediately accuses Serena of jealousy. But Serena's alarm has nothing to do with romance. She understands the danger behind the offer. Prince Heinrich's ambitious mother is a royal concubine who wants her son on the throne. The kingdom's nobles are divided between three factions, while House Violet has remained neutral, making Rosemary's engagement a direct attack on that fragile balance. Serena insists the marriage cannot happen, because joining the second prince would drag the entire duchy into the succession conflict. Amaryllis dismisses her warning as dramatic interference with Rosemary's happiness and accepts the proposal while Alto is absent. Serena explains the likely future to Tigger. Heinrich never wanted Rosemary herself. His faction wants House Violet's wealth and influence, and the concubine's hatred of commoners means Rosemary could become a disposable wife, or be eliminated once an heir is secured. Elsewhere, Heinrich openly complains about being forced to marry a commoner girl. His disgust confirms that Rosemary is merely a political tool, not a cherished bride. An advisor offers the prince a more attractive alternative. Serena, the true blue-blooded heir of House Violet, and one of the kingdom's greatest beauties. Heinrich, calms down when told that the real prize is the violet fortune. The conspirators believe Serena is isolated within her own household because Amaryllis favors Rosemary. They describe the adopted girl as controllable and Serena as clever but vulnerable, assuming both sisters can be manipulated for the faction's benefit. Serena confronts Amaryllis for approving a royal marriage without consulting Alto. Her mother cannot understand why such a prestigious match makes Serena angry. But Serena points out that reputation, court politics, and the concubine's hostility matter more than rank alone. A child born a commoner should have received even more careful protection before entering a dangerous royal marriage. Since Amaryllis has already decided, Serena orders her to maintain distance between Rosemary and the ducal house so their neutrality is not destroyed completely. Amaryllis apologizes and asks Serena to help preserve the family's neutral position. Serena agrees outwardly, then quietly tells Tigger they are leaving, because she has reached the limit of what she can endure inside this home. Tigger asks whether she is truly serious. Serena answers that she can handle danger easily, but living as a noble under constant emotional hypocrisy is becoming impossible. To her, escaping the mansion now feels almost amusingly simple. Before they can disappear, Prince Evan finds Serena and asks where she is going. His pleasant smile hides sharp curiosity, and he casually offers to escort her, as though catching runaway dukes' daughters is an ordinary pastime. Serena tells him not to interfere and suggests he return to his royal duties. Evan follows anyway, amused by her attempt to leave with only a single attendant and no believable explanation. Evan asks whether she is running away because of Rosemary's engagement. Serena briefly considers killing him to protect her plans, but a royal prince cannot be removed so easily, especially when he appears completely unafraid. He reveals that he saw Serena jump from her window with one suitcase and Tigger beside her. No proper young lady would flee in such a manner, so the reason must involve the engagement between Heinrich and her little sister. Evan calls the situation entertaining and asks Serena's true objective. She cannot read his smiling face, yet suspects he wants to use her judgment of people to learn more about Rosemary and the politics surrounding the match. Evan claims that his father wants to meet Serena, and a carriage is already waiting for the royal palace. With escape temporarily impossible, Serena must decide whether following the prince is less dangerous than resisting him. The king's plan is political theater. Serena and Evan must be seen together, so the public understands that House Violet remains impartial in the succession struggle. If the duchy appears to support Heinrich, conflict between factions will intensify. Evan admits he originally suspected Serena of being an assassin sent by the concubine's faction. Her eyes are too sharp, and her reactions too controlled for an ordinary noble girl, and he knows many enemies would gladly see him dead. Serena insists. She is merely a normal duke's daughter who wants nothing to do with the succession crisis. Since her warnings were ignored, she would rather build a new life as a commoner than remain and eventually be executed for her family's political choices. Evan laughs that a sheltered noble girl could never survive alone, not even knowing how to change her own clothes. Serena keeps silent because her secret life makes his assumptions almost comically wrong. Then Serena finally realizes why Evan's face feels familiar. He looks exactly like the knight who killed her in her previous life. Evan offers a reward and promises she will not be executed if she helps him resolve the crisis. With no safe destination and a second chance she intends to live fully, Serena agrees to try, but only with insurance. She demands a written contract before risking herself for the royal family. Evan accepts without hesitation. He promises to do everything possible, even if their alliance can only exist for a short time, while Serena prepares to step directly into the heart of the succession struggle. The contract is signed, and Evan immediately begins acting far too friendly. He says they should become close from now on, while Serena warns that their agreement does not give him permission to overstep its boundaries. Tigger watches the exchange with open hostility, as if he could kill Evan with a glance. Serena apologizes for her butler's intensity, and the prince decides they should return before the situation becomes any more dangerous. Evan sends Serena home in a royal carriage and casually invites her to visit whenever she wishes. He warns that the palace is already watching House Violet closely, now that Rosemary is engaged to the second prince, making Serena's movements politically important. The engagement transforms the mansion overnight. Royal maids and knights are assigned to Rosemary, supposedly to serve a future princess, but Serena immediately recognizes their real purpose. They are eyes and ears planted inside the Violet household. Rosemary enjoys the new attention and boasts that everyone finally treats her better as a prince's fiancée. Yet Serena's attitude remains unchanged, so Rosemary invites her to tea less from affection than from a desire to flaunt her elevated position. Despite all her excitement, Rosemary has not seen Heinrich since the tea party. Her letters receive no personal response, and Marin gently suggests that the prince must simply be busy while negotiations continue through messengers. Rosemary orders Marin to send another request for a meeting. She also complains that Serena still fails to understand their new hierarchy, determined to force her older sister to acknowledge that the engagement has placed Rosemary above her. Far away, Heinrich reacts to Rosemary's letters with open disgust and refuses to answer. His frustration rises whenever her name appears, confirming that the engagement is purely political and that he has no interest in the girl he is supposed to marry. Meanwhile, Serena discovers that Heinrich has been sending a growing stack of letters to her instead. She pretends not to notice them, but the prince's attention is becoming impossible to ignore. The contents are shamelessly flirtatious, proving that Heinrich is every bit the womanizer Serena expected. While she wonders what kind of man courts his fiancée's sister, Tiger notices something even more immediate. Rosemary has ordered that Serena be served inferior food. A maid tries to carry the meal into Serena's room, only for Tiger to intercept her. He coldly declares that the food belongs to his lady and demands an explanation for what she is attempting to serve. The tray contains little more than warm water, dry scraps, and moldy bread, food worse than an average commoner would accept. Tigger asks whether the maid understood exactly what she was bringing to the Duke's daughter. Serena answers the insult with a sudden, merciless reaction. The maid finally experiences the filth she intended to force on someone else, while Tigger watches his mistress turn humiliation into evidence. The maid bursts into Rosemary's room and reveals the disgusting meal, claiming she was ordered to deliver it without Serena's permission. When pressed, she admits that Rosemary herself gave the command. Rosemary immediately denies everything and accuses the servant of acting alone. Serena calmly explains that barging into a duke's daughter's room and serving filth is still a severe offense, whether the maid was following orders or not. The terrified maid begs Rosemary to admit the truth, but Rosemary insists she knows nothing. Serena orders the standard punishment, dismissal, and whipping, prompting Rosemary to accuse her of having no mercy toward the weak. Evan, witnessing the dispute, points out that whipping is actually the minimum sentence for such an insult. In harsher courts, death would not be unusual. Rosemary suddenly realizes Serena has chosen restraint, not cruelty. After the guilty maid is punished, no servant is willing to carry out Rosemary's petty orders again. Serena expects the harassment to stop until another strange cup is placed before the future princess. Rosemary lifts the cup and recoils. Instead of tea, it contains muddy water, and Serena calmly explains that Amaryllis asked her to take responsibility for Rosemary's education. Before Rosemary can protest, Serena physically forces the lesson forward. The household watches in horror as the girl who once boasted about gutter water is confronted with the consequences of her own lies. Serena tells Rosemary to consider the muddy drink part of her training as a future princess consort. If she intends to speak of hardship and command others, she should at least understand the taste she once pretended to know. Rosemary threatens that Heinrich adores her and will punish Serena when he hears about this. Serena asks which maid supposedly served the drink, exposing how little Rosemary understands about power, responsibility, or evidence. Then Serena delivers the cruelest truth. Heinrich has never visited, never shown genuine interest, and is unlikely to love Rosemary at all. Clinging to an uncertain fantasy will only make the inevitable betrayal more painful. Rumors of the incident spread through the mansion like wildfire. Servants become wary of Serena, and the image of a cold villainess bullying a weaker adopted sister takes root more firmly than ever. Tiger asks why Serena does not correct the story. She replies that truth alone changes nothing. People believe whatever version suits their emotions, especially when they already want to see her as the villain. One of Rosemary's newly assigned royal knights confronts Serena and demands that she address the future princess with greater respect. He warns that insulting a woman marrying into royalty will bring consequences. Serena asks whether he is not worried about threatening the actual heiress of a ducal house. The knight arrogantly declares that his loyalty to Rosemary and Prince Heinrich protects him from any retaliation. His attitude reveals a dangerous kind of justice. Men who believe anything is permitted as long as a powerful patron approves. Serena points out that every threat he makes is supposedly backed by Heinrich, forcing him to face his own words. Humiliated and enraged, the knight draws his weapon and lunges at Serena. The attack finally gives her the opening she needs to expose the faction's lawlessness. Steel flashes through the corridor as Serena evades and counters. Though she could end the fight instantly, she allows the struggle to leave visible evidence, turning the knight's rage into a political weapon. The clash ends with Serena wounded but standing, while the royal knight is overwhelmed. Tiger arrives a moment too late and sees blood on the person he has sworn to protect. Tiger's killing intent freezes the attacker. He warns that if the man ever raises a hand against Serena again, he will not live long enough to regret it, then forces him to understand exactly who holds control now. Other knights rush in and find their comrade injured beside Serena. He claims she attacked first, but Serena calmly asks why a royal guard drew his sword near an unarmed duke's daughter in the first place. The accusation collapses immediately. No reasonable person will believe a pampered noble girl threatened an armed knight, so his superiors apologize and promise punishment to the fullest extent of the law while tending Serena's wound. Once they are alone, Tiger asks whether Serena understands why he is furious. His anger is not directed only at the attacker. It is also aimed at Serena for deliberately allowing herself to be hurt. Serena insists that her safety is not Tiger's personal responsibility and reminds him that she ordered him not to move. Tiger rejects that logic, because a butler who watches his mistress bleed has already failed in his own eyes. He says that killing even a royal knight would not be excessive if the man harmed Serena. She dismisses the wound as a useful trade for removing troublesome enemies who have been harassing her for weeks. Tiger finally states the emotions Serena cannot calculate. She is precious to him, and he does not want her hurt regardless of strategy, rank, or responsibility. The word precious confuses Serena. Humans normally value themselves above others, yet the knight from her previous life knowingly ran toward death for the crown prince. And now Tiger speaks with the same impossible conviction. Serena views sacrifice as a poor strategic decision. She cannot understand throwing away one's life for another person, but the knight's final words and Tiger's anger continue to challenge everything her first life taught her. Elsewhere, the disgraced royal knight rages after being dishonorably discharged. He curses Serena for destroying his position and decides that humiliation can only be answered with revenge. Tiger finds him first. Although Serena ordered him to stay silent, he cannot accept leaving the threat alive, and the former knight mistakes him for a thief, while Tiger quietly prepares to erase the problem. The man boasts that he remains a proud follower of Heinrich and claims no punishment will come if he attacks. Tiger asks how he can possibly be certain, then refuses to let royal arrogance shield him any longer. The alley erupts in a brief, brutal struggle. Tiger releases the strength of the warring tribe and ends the former knight's revenge before it can ever reach Serena. The next morning, rumors spread of a murder in the back alleys. The victim's face was destroyed beyond recognition, making the death look like a robbery gone wrong, and leaving investigators with no identity. Tiger once feared the violent power inherited from his clan. Now he no longer fears killing if it means removing those who would harm Serena. In his mind, no sin is too great when committed for her protection. Serena notices that Tiger seems unusually refreshed and asks what happened. He vaguely admits that there was someone he disliked, and that he dealt with the matter the previous night. She understands enough not to press further. Rosemary storms into Serena's room and accuses her of using jealousy to dismiss the royal knights. Serena reminds her that even a duke's daughter should not possess authority over a prince's guards, unless the engagement itself has granted dangerous, unofficial power. Before their argument can continue, another letter arrives for Serena. Rosemary assumes it is from Heinrich and mocks her, unaware that the increasing correspondence is evidence of the prince's interest shifting away from his own fiancée. The following day, both Prince Evan and Prince Heinrich arrive at the Violet estate. Alto welcomes them, and asks Serena and Rosemary to guide the royal guests through the manor. Rosemary rushes toward Heinrich, thrilled that he has finally come after ignoring her letters. Evan quietly notes that her excitement is understandable, since this is the first time her supposed fiancé has made any effort to meet her. Serena asks why Evan has accompanied his brother. He explains that his presence is necessary to prevent nobles from assuming House Violet has aligned itself with Heinrich's faction simply because of the engagement. Evan admits he came because Heinrich suddenly wanted to visit, and his brothers must be watched carefully. When he asks about the letters Heinrich sent, Serena says she destroyed them, unread, showing no concern for the messengers who might be punished for her silence. Evan questions whether Serena feels any guilt, but she refuses to carry responsibility for a prince who creates his own problems. If Heinrich wants to save himself, he can do it. Serena intends to live for no one but herself. Evan says Rick mentioned that Serena might understand him because they share a strange feeling of being different. At first, Evan even suspected that the real Duke's daughter had been killed and replaced by an assassin wearing her identity. Serena calmly points out how absurd that theory is. Planting an assassin as a noble child for years would be inefficient, and no third-rate infiltrator could maintain the role this long. Still, Evan's suspicion proves how abnormal her presence appears. Heinrich finally approaches Serena and gushes that he worried because she never answered his letters. Rosemary stands beside them in disbelief, realizing that her own fiancé wrote repeatedly to Serena while ignoring her completely. Evan forces the prince to acknowledge the woman he is actually engaged to. Heinrich claims there is no need for letters between himself and Rosemary, then shamelessly argues that building a relationship with his future sister-in-law is perfectly natural. Evan tears through the excuse by reminding everyone that Heinrich has not seen Rosemary since the engagement 6 months ago. Given the prince's reputation, his supposed busyness was likely spent pursuing other women. He warns that sending intimate letters to another woman can destroy Serena's reputation as well as Heinrich's. A royal prince should understand that careless behavior creates political consequences far beyond his own amusement. Evan turns the warning toward Rosemary too, telling her not to build assumptions from rumors or treat every whisper as fact. She stares blankly, unable to understand why her fantasy is being dismantled in public. Heinrich reveals that Rosemary has been attending tea parties, insulting Serena, and complaining about the engagement to other noble girls. He knows because the stories have spread throughout their social circle. Most listeners are not supporting Rosemary at all. They are laughing at her. Evan bluntly notes that she has no genuine friends, while Rosemary's dramatic tears only reinforce the image of a lonely girl desperate to play the victim. After delivering the uncomfortable truth, Evan calls it friendly advice for Rosemary's future social life. Then he smoothly changes the subject before the tea grows cold, leaving everyone to sit through the painfully tense gathering. The tea party becomes a complete disaster. Rosemary clings to Heinrich and fights for his attention, while the prince ignores his fiancée and continues directing nearly every word towards Serena. Evan refuses to be left out and keeps questioning Serena as well, while Tigger looms behind the princes with a murderous expression. By the end, Serena wants nothing more than to avoid another gathering like it forever. Rick soon arrives with the latest gossip. All noble society is talking about Serena, Heinrich, and the sisters' rivalry. Letters, tea parties, and royal visits have turned Serena into the center of a scandal she never wanted. Evan has begun visiting more often, which only intensifies the rumors. He repeatedly points out that Heinrich shows no real interest in Rosemary, while Serena has become increasingly careless about hiding her irritation around the royal family. Despite the chaos, Rick says Serena is doing an excellent job keeping the factions balanced. The crown is grateful, and Rick considers requesting additional compensation for the political burden she has been forced to carry. Time passes beneath the constant presence of the two princes. Before Serena realizes it, their visits, arguments, and competing attention have become an exhausting part of everyday life. Then a new chapter begins. The Academy. Serena mourns the loss of quiet days at home as Rosemary excitedly drags her forward, thrilled by the chance to enter noble society without their parents, watching every move. At 16, Serena and Rosemary are sent to the academy with other young nobles. Its true purpose is less about education than building connections. learning social rules, and preparing the next generation to control the kingdom. Serena enters with Tigger at her side, only for a student to sneer that commoners are not welcome. Tigger steps back as ordered, while Serena prepares to face the Academy's hierarchy without relying on open violence. Lady Scarnet recognizes Serena from the earlier tea party and immediately mentions her growing closeness with Prince Evan. The reunion confirms that the same social games Serena hated outside the Academy have followed her through the gates. Scarnet eagerly asks what Serena did to approach the prince, then briefly mistakes Rosemary for someone important. Serena refuses to explain, knowing there is no harmless answer to questions about private royal attention. Scarnet boasts that she represents elegance and noble refinement, then openly asks whether Serena is interested in that commoner. Her smile makes it clear that the question is another test disguised as friendly conversation. Rosemary's engagement is treated like a fairy tale, a commoner marrying a prince, but Serena understands how quickly that story could become a nightmare. If Evan falls, Heinrich may inherit the throne, making Rosemary's valuable to anyone seeking influence over the future king. Rosemary eagerly introduces herself to Scarnet and asks to become friends. Scarnet welcomes her with exaggerated warmth, while Serena sees a new alliance forming between two girls who value appearances far more than sincerity. The conversation soon turns to Heinrich. Rosemary admits that her fiancé has sent letters to Serena and barely speaks to her, but she laughs awkwardly, rather than confront the humiliation in front of her new companions. Then Heinrich appears and immediately notices Serena. Rosemary's face brightens, expecting him to approach his fiancé, only to realize once again where his attention truly lies. Heinrich enthusiastically welcomes Serena to the Academy and says he is delighted they can meet frequently. Evan steps in beside him, smoothing over the insult while Rosemary struggles to maintain her smile. Evan tells Serena he worried that his brother's behavior had damaged her standing, but thanks to their public appearance, the situation seems under control. Serena realizes the Academy itself is now another stage for the royal family's political performance. Evan asks why she is walking alone and admits he disliked the suffocating crowd around him. Serena understands perfectly. In her previous life, she gained attention through infamy, and in this one, she seems to attract it without trying. He points out that a beautiful duke's daughter tied to two princes could never avoid notice. At the entrance, countless students stared at Serena, yet she was so focused on her surroundings that she never recognized their fascination. Evan is amazed by how blind Serena remains to her own beauty and influence. She refuses to entertain the topic, uncomfortable with any conversation that treats her as something to admire rather than a person to evaluate. Serena abruptly asks Evan to leave and return to his guards. He apologizes but lingers, still wanting to talk, until Serena's attention locks onto something dangerous nearby. An unfamiliar face appears where no student should be. Serena senses trained hostility hidden above them and immediately recognizes the signs of an approaching attack. She concludes that the stranger is probably a disposable pawn sent to kill Evan. Though Serena wants no part in royal conflict, she cannot allow an assassination to unfold directly in front of her. The moment the attacker moves, Serena slams into Evan and knocks him out of the path. The hidden assassin's strike misses its royal target by a breath. Serena apologizes for the sudden tackle while keeping her eyes on the threat. A nearby student claims she did not notice the attacker because of the crowd, but Serena orders everyone to stay back and promises to protect them. Evan thanks Serena and asks how she noticed the danger. She calls it chance, then insists that the real guards must be summoned before the attacker's presence attracts more attention. Evan points out that Serena moved even before confirming he was in danger. She admits it was pure reflex triggered by killing intent, another instinct from her old life that she cannot explain to someone who finds the mystery exciting. The Academy guards finally approach. Serena tells Tigger to hide the evidence and herself before anyone asks how a duke's daughter reacted faster than trained royal protectors. Later, Amaryllis arrives to collect Rosemary, who has already built a large circle of friends. She is relieved that the adopted girl is fitting in, then awkwardly asks Serena whether she is enjoying school as well. Serena gives a polite answer and leaves before the conversation deepens. Amaryllis seems satisfied, but the strained exchange makes the distance between mother and daughter more painful than open hostility. Watching Serena walk away, Amaryllis wonders whether the girl is truly her daughter. Serena's smile never reaches her eyes, and the Duchess is haunted by the impossible thought that someone else might exist behind that familiar face. Memories reinforce the fear. Serena read at 1-year-old, stabbed Bruce without hesitation, and has never shown a truly innocent expression. Every milestone seemed less like childhood growth, and more like an adult carefully imitating a child. Amaryllis finally accepts that Serena's smile has always been artificial. Beneath it lies an abyss she cannot understand, and, for the first time, she confronts how little she knows about the daughter she gave birth to. Months into academy life, Serena has adapted to the routine and even found parts of it entertaining. Still, she faces a steady stream of annoyances, especially the attention surrounding Evan, and the political expectations created by her family. As Astra's first prince, Evan becomes an even greater political force once academy life begins. With Heinrich, Rosemary's engagement, and House Violet already destabilizing the factions, every greeting around him feels like a declaration of loyalty. Serena endures formal introductions from royalty and noblemen, while Tiger watches from a distance. She hates the awkward admiration in their eyes. And then the largest source of trouble arrives across the courtyard. Rosemary approaches with Scarnet and an army of noble friends. Now accustomed to the prestige of being Heinrich's fiancée, she carries herself like a future queen, making Serena wonder whether an idiot on the throne might actually be easier for these nobles to control. Rosemary has grown completely intoxicated by status. Serena corrects her and for Princess Parstas by name without permission. But Rosemary dismisses the warning as jealousy, and loudly declares that she will marry Heinrich soon anyway. She even addresses Evan with false familiarity, assuming she already belongs to the royal family. Evan immediately forbids it and reminds her that she is only Heinrich's fiancée, not yet a princess or his own sister-in-law. Embarrassed, Rosemary retaliates by accusing Serena of setting her sights on Evan and dreaming of becoming the next queen. She warns the prince not to be fooled by Serena's kindness, forgetting entirely who holds power in the conversation. Evan's gentle expression vanishes. He asks Rosemary exactly who she thinks she is speaking to, forcing the overconfident girl to remember her place in front of a royal heir. Evan explains that he may not even remain part of the central royal line after Heinrich succeeds. A new branch could be created, and Rosemary has no permission to treat him casually, simply because she expects to marry his brother. The exchange exposes a shocking gap in Rosemary's education. She does not understand succession, royal branches, or what her engagement actually means. Serena can only wonder what House Violet has been teaching a daughter with no noble blood or political awareness. Rosemary bursts into tears and claims everyone mocks her for being a former commoner. Evan rebukes her for clinging to a man who barely acts like her fiancé, while apologizing for Heinrich's deplorable behavior without excusing her own. Serena leaves with Evan before the scene grows worse. Heinrich, as usual, does not spare Rosemary a single glance, leaving the future bride surrounded by people, but completely alone. Heinrich continues playing with noble women at school and visiting Serena whenever called. Watching Rosemary cling to him despite the humiliation makes Serena wonder what love actually means, and why people allow one word to control their lives. In Serena's previous life, clients killed and betrayed in the name of love. Some wanted unfaithful partners dead, others wanted lovers returned, and all treated the emotion as essential, even though no one literally died from losing it. Tiger finally asks the question he has carried for years. Why has Serena not eliminated Rosemary? Serena admits she has considered it more than 100 times, but something always stops her. Amaryllis cherishes Rosemary so deeply that killing the girl would wound Serena's mother. Rosemary is also not worth the trouble or risk of witnesses, yet Tiger insists Serena is the real daughter and should defend her position more aggressively. Serena explains that this is precisely why she feels sorry for Amaryllis. Without memories of the slums and assassination, Serena might have grown into an innocent child who laughed with her mother and spoke about trivial things every day. That daughter will never exist. Serena's past prevents her from understanding Amaryllis's ideal of family, and the former assassin admits she does not even know how to love her mother in the first place. At school, Scarnet loudly condemns Rosemary for disrespecting Evan. She presents herself as defending royal dignity, but the attack quickly becomes another excuse to humiliate the former commoner. Scarnet mocks Rosemary for surrounding herself with men despite having a fiancé and allows the word whore to spread through the crowd. Even Heinrich admits the insult is excessive, though he has done more than anyone to create the rumors. Scarnet turns her attention to Serena and lectures her about social connections, political caution, and the responsibilities of House Violet. Serena responds with applause, amazed that someone can speak for so long without pausing to breathe. When asked for his opinion, Heinrich casually says Scarnet is right. Serena notes that the prince agrees with criticism of his own fiancé, confirming how little loyalty exists behind the engagement. Serena calmly asks whether anyone has actually seen Heinrich and Rosemary behave like a couple. Their rare meetings contain no affection, and at this rate Rosemary will be discarded long before the wedding. Rosemary's constant entourage of young men only worsens the scandal. Even if she intends to provoke Heinrich, that conduct is completely unsuited to a noble daughter and gives the prince's faction an easy excuse to abandon her. Heinrich openly flirts with other women, promising nights together while mentioning that he must meet Serena later. One woman teasingly asks whether he has already spent the night with Lady Serena, turning rumor into public entertainment. Rosemary storms into the group and orders the low-ranking noblewomen away from her fiancé. They laugh at her jealousy, enjoying how easily the supposed future princess loses control. The women remind Rosemary that she is still a former commoner and claim their bearing is more aristocratic than hers. Desperate, Rosemary asks Heinrich to confirm that he chose and loved her as his bride. Heinrich laughs in her face. He explains that his mother selected Rosemary for political convenience, and that arranged marriage is common among nobles. He never chose her and never loved her. He tells Rosemary to know her place and cruelly confirms what she feared most. From the beginning, he preferred Serena, not the girl officially promised to him. Heinrich makes the truth unmistakable. Rosemary was never special to him, not even once. She was simply the convenient name written into a political agreement. He declares her inferior to Serena in beauty, intelligence, elegance, and every quality he values. Then he leaves with the other women, warning Rosemary not to interfere with his amusement again. Rosemary collapses after the humiliation. Serena makes no move to help, reasoning that her sister's legs are unbroken and she can stand whenever she chooses. Evan argues that the injury is emotional rather than physical. Even a small wound can become infected if ignored, and Serena's habit of dismissing pain, simply because it is not fatal, may destroy the people around her. When Serena asks whether he would treat her the same way, Evan answers without hesitation. If she were wounded, no matter how small the injury, he would take care of her. Evan admits he does not want to see Serena hurt, just as Tiger once did. Serena cannot understand why other people care about wounds that do not belong to them, especially when helping offers no strategic advantage. Frustrated, she tells him to stop saying things she cannot comprehend. Evan quietly answers that he knows. Serena truly does not understand, and that may be the saddest part of all. Rosemary remembers her first parents telling her that everyone loved her, and that she was their precious child. Those words became the foundation of a belief that affection was something the world owed her. After their deaths, Amaryllis seemed to love Rosemary even more than her own daughter. Then came noble luxury and a royal engagement, convincing Rosemary that the gods had chosen her to be happier than anyone alive. With everyone watching, Heinrich destroys Rosemary's final illusion in a single sentence. He was never in love with her. The prince's cold confession leaves her unable to hide behind their engagement or the fantasies she built around it. Rosemary cannot accept it. She insists she is loved by the gods, that she has done nothing wrong, and desperately wonders when the perfect life promised to her began falling apart. When Serena appears, Rosemary stares through tears and asks whether her sister should even exist. In her shattered mind, Serena has become the obstacle responsible for every lost promise. Later, Rick asks about academy life and the assassination attempt during the entrance ceremony. The attacker was only a disposable pawn, but the captured clues have given the guild several educated guesses about the mastermind. Hera, Heinrich's mother and a powerful royal concubine, remains the most likely suspect, though nothing is proven. Rick notes that Evan survived because he wore chainmail and sensed the danger quickly, suggesting the prince is far better trained than his carefree image implies. At school, Serena's textbook suddenly disappears. Scarlett offers to share hers with exaggerated kindness, but Serena knows the book vanished during the brief moment she left her seat, making the concern feel suspiciously convenient. Outside, the boys begin swordsmanship lessons while the girls watch from the classroom. Serena notices how quickly the academy turns every exercise into another public contest of rank and talent. Evan wins his match with ease and barely needs assistance. Tiger observes from a distance, Teeds measuring the prince's technique while Serena realizes that his relaxed behavior hides genuine skill. Heinrich cannot tolerate losing to his brother and storms toward the infirmary before the lesson ends. The defeat reopens an old wound tied to his mother's expectations. He remembers being ordered never to lose to Evan under any circumstances. As the supposed future king, Heinrich was taught that his brother's superiority was not merely embarrassing. It was politically unacceptable. Serena later finds Heinrich training alone instead of skipping class as usual. She asks whether he has finished his sword lesson, and the prince immediately becomes defensive about Evan witnessing his failure. Rather than mock him, Serena says Heinrich is stronger than he believes. His real weakness is wasting strength whenever emotion controls him. If he can remain calm during battle, he may eventually defeat Evan. Heinrich lights up because no one has ever criticized him so honestly while still acknowledging his ability. He promises that next time he will win, treating Serena's blunt assessment as the first genuine encouragement he has received. Back in class, Serena's missing textbook reappears, slashed and ruined. Scarlett protests that she would never do something so barbaric, while Serena quietly catalogs another act in the growing campaign against her. The vandalism, disappearances, and harassment continue. A staff member suggests jealousy over Serena's beauty and closeness to Evan. But the number of possible enemies has become too large for any simple explanation. The sabotage escalates from damaged belongings to physical danger. Someone violently pulls Serena's chair as she sits, sending her crashing toward the floor while the surrounding students scream. As Serena reviews the harassment, one suspect finally stands out. Rosemary would benefit most from Serena's humiliation, and the sisters have barely seen each other for days. Yet a glimpse of familiar brown hair near the latest incident deepens the suspicion. Evan approaches after hearing that Serena has faced increasingly vicious harassment. She dismisses the damage as an inconvenience because belongings can be replaced, but he sincerely offers his help if the situation grows worse. Serena asks why he bothers showing concern when no audience is present. Their contract does not require it, and she cannot imagine Evan acting without some benefit to himself. Evan answers that worry does not always need a reason. Serena freezes, frustrated by another emotion she cannot calculate, as though she is once again being blamed for failing to understand something everyone else finds natural. He apologizes for upsetting her, and admits that, if forced to explain, he has always felt a mysterious connection with Serena. Her presence is completely different from other noble ladies, almost as if they met somewhere long before this life. The confession unsettles Serena, because Evan resembles the knight who killed her. She wonders whether he could carry the same soul, then rejects the impossible thought and accepts his concern, without revealing why his words frighten her. Tiger finally brings proof. After monitoring Rosemary all day, he watched her plant needles on Serena's desk. Until now, she used other people to do the dirty work, but desperation has pushed her to act personally. Tiger offers to deliver a private warning, but Serena refuses to let him solve this problem from the shadows. She will confront Rosemary personally and end the childish sabotage face-to-face, where excuses and borrowed accomplices can no longer protect her. Serena catches Rosemary at the academy and calmly asks whether this is how she has been decorating her sister's belongings. The evidence leaves no room for another innocent act. Rosemary's entourage waits outside, while Serena remarks that their leader seems strangely lonely. She mocks Rosemary for spending so much time fixing her appearance, when fear and resentment are already written across her face. Then Serena produces the needles Tiger recovered and quietly asks what they are. Rosemary's expression changes at once, confirming that she recognizes the weapon and knows exactly how it appeared among Serena's belongings. Serena warns that Tiger has investigated every incident, so lies will not save her. The sabotage has gone far beyond damaged books, and Rosemary can no longer hide behind anonymous classmates. Rosemary explodes that everything is Serena's fault because Heinrich loves her. Serena responds that the prince openly pursues noblewomen, disregards his own fiancée, and would continue doing so, even if Serena did not exist. Serena asks whether a man like that is truly worth destroying herself over and suggests finding better friends. Rosemary screams for her to shut up, unwilling to hear that the romance she worships was never real. Serena's patience ends. She tells Rosemary that the only reason she remains alive is Serena's restraint, and if another attack occurs, making a troublesome little sister disappear would be effortless. The threat finally breaks through Rosemary's arrogance. Serena orders her sir never to repeat the harassment, while Rosemary realizes that everyone she believed loved her has already drifted away, leaving only the sister she tried to destroy. Unfortunately, Scarnett witnesses only the terrifying end of the confrontation. She asks whether Serena was behind the earlier incidents too, and the misunderstanding gives her something far more dangerous than evidence. A story people want to believe. By the next day, rumors claim Serena bullied her jealous, common-born sister and orchestrated the harassment herself. Rosemary's so-called friends abandon her to protect their own reputations, proving how shallow their loyalty always was. Tiger traces the gossip to a girl from Heinrich's entourage, who saw part of the confrontation. Because many students already disliked Rosemary's background, the rumor spread without anyone caring whether it was true. Serena senses the scandal is about to become far worse. Rosemary has sown enough resentment that one public spark could bring the entire academy down on her. That spark arrives when Rosemary is dragged before a crowd of nobles. Heinrich stands at the center, preparing to turn a private political arrangement into a humiliating spectacle. Without consulting either family, Prince Heinrich publicly declares his engagement to Rosemary annulled. The announcement tears apart her political future before a crowd of nobles, turning the promise she treated as destiny into a spectacle of humiliation. Heinrich accuses Rosemary of bullying Serena and behaving in a manner unworthy of a prince's fiancée. He announces that he will end their engagement and replace it with one to Serena instead. Rosemary's assigned bodyguard protests that the marriage was decided between House Violet and the royal family. Heinrich dismisses him, claiming Rosemary no longer needs protection and ordering the knight to remember whom he truly serves. Rosemary suddenly laughs at Heinrich's arrogance. She says he will not even remain royal once he comes of age, and lists every way he falls behind Evan: studies, popularity, lineage, swordsmanship, and character. The prince's face twists with rage as Rosemary strikes the insecurity his mother cultivated for years. He can endure insults from many people, but not from the commoner he already despises. Heinrich draws his sword and charges before anyone can calm him. The public annulment instantly becomes an attempted killing, forcing Serena to react, while the surrounding nobles realize the prince has lost all control. Serena intercepts him, reminding Heinrich that she warned him never to draw a blade in anger. Rather than fear him, she says she is disappointed that he learned nothing from their earlier conversation. His uncontrolled swing still cuts Serena as she shields Rosemary. Blood splashes across the academy courtyard, silencing the crowd and instantly turning Heinrich's political mistake into a royal crime. Evan restrains his brother and warns that the king is already waiting for an explanation. Heinrich was foolish enough to fall for provocation, draw a sword in public, and injure a duke's daughter before countless witnesses. Heinrich stares at Serena's blood and finally understands what he has done. The person he wanted most is now wounded by his own hand, and Evan can only call his little brother painfully stupid. Evan decides to take Serena home and asks Scarnett to help. Although Serena's injury is only a scratch, she refuses to leave Rosemary abandoned and orders that her sister be brought along as well. As the adrenaline fades, Serena realizes she does not understand any of it. Rosemary's jealousy, Heinrich's rage, Evan's fear, and her own decision to protect someone who repeatedly tried to hurt her all defy logic. People risk everything for love, anger, and jealousy, even for individuals they claim not to like. Serena cannot grasp why emotions drive them to such extreme lengths, yet she has begun acting under the same invisible force. For the first time, Serena is disturbed by her own feelings. Protecting Rosemary was not calculated, and she cannot explain why the sight of the sword moving toward her sister made her body act. Evan says his heart nearly stopped when Serena stepped in front of the blade. He promises not to lecture her while she recovers, but the terror in his voice reveals how much her safety matters to him. Amaryllis rushes to Serena and asks whether she is hurt. Hearing about the attack made her blood run cold, and she clings to the fact that the wound truly is only a scratch. Rosemary apologizes through tears and admits she kept running away because she could not face Serena. Serena says she chose the path that seemed most peaceful and least troublesome, even if she still cannot explain why that path included saving her. Amaryllis's embrace feels unexpectedly warm. Alto, who was abroad, hurries home after hearing the news and becomes furious enough to challenge the royal family over what happened to his daughter. Heinrich is placed under house arrest, and the engagement crisis appears temporarily contained. Serena expects a period of quiet until the royal concubine decides to intervene personally. The concubine sends an escort to the academy and demands Serena appear at the palace without warning. Tigor senses danger, but refusing a royal summons openly would create another political weapon against House Violet. The proud woman tells Serena exactly what she wants: convince Alto to drop the charges against Heinrich. She frames the prince's public attack as shameful behavior provoked by House Violet and expects a vassal's daughter to repair the damage. Serena denies bringing shame upon the crown and refuses to accept a false accusation. Whether Heinrich's conduct disgraced the royal family is a matter for the king, not his mother's anger, and Serena will not surrender House Violet's position. The concubine sneers that such insolence is expected from a family foolish enough to adopt a commoner. Serena answers that Rosemary's birth is irrelevant. The truly peculiar behavior came from a prince who casually exceeded his authority. When the concubine threatens House Violet, Serena warns her not to trample a duke's daughter, as though the family has no power. The royal faction is not the only force capable of destroying an enemy. Serena explains the economic trap around Marquis Hines, the concubine's family. Her mother controls noble connections, while Alto's merchants and foreign partners can halt distribution with a word. The heavily indebted house could collapse almost overnight. The concubine's confidence finally shatters. She demands immediate contact with her parents and orders them to act, realizing that provoking Serena may not merely embarrass her faction. It could bring House Violet down upon her entire family. After leaving the palace, Serena casually asks Tigger whether he has ever been in love. The question is so unexpected that her normally composed butler nearly loses all dignity. Tigger panics, thinking Serena has fallen for the two-faced prince. She quickly denies it and explains that the recent marriage conflict has simply made her curious about the emotion everyone treats as sacred. Heinrich maintained an engagement he hated because Rosemary gave him access to ducal power, yet he destroyed it to defend Serena, a woman who never loved him. Serena asks whether love can truly be worth more than status, riches, and an entire future kingdom. Tigger answers without hesitation. No amount of wealth, status, or power could ever equal Serena's value to him. His devotion is not a calculation, which only deepens her confusion about what love truly means. Serena wonders whether Tigger's loyalty is the same bond humans feel toward family, or even the affection between a person and a faithful animal. Perhaps she may understand love someday, but for now she insists it is not something required for survival. News soon spreads that trade across the Hines' ancestral lands has completely stalled. Rumors blame House Violet for taking revenge over Heinrich's conduct. Yet Serena knows Alto has not personally ordered any retaliation. A guild messenger arrives after a long absence, explaining that Rick avoided interfering with Serena's school life. The visit is urgent, and the timing suggests the economic disaster is only the beginning. The messenger reveals that after meeting Serena's, Hera tried to pressure the merchants by ordering them to cut all dealings with House Violet. She expected royal authority to outweigh decades of trust and profit. Instead, the merchants chose loyalty. A merchant's word is lifeblood, and they refused to betray the ducal house that had supported them. True to their promise, they stopped selling goods to House Hines instead. Hera's family can no longer purchase dresses, luxuries, or even routine supplies. The merchants would rather side with the powerful Violet Duchy than a lesser noble house whose influence exists mostly in name. Serena concludes that Hera ruined herself by attacking the kingdom's most important commercial network. Now cornered and unable to pressure House Violet through ordinary means, the concubine has become dangerously desperate. Rick's urgent warning confirms it. Hera has ordered Serina's assassination. The royal woman has decided that removing the Duke's daughter is easier than admitting defeat. Serena almost laughs at the stupidity. Hera and Heinrich both respond to obstacles by trying to destroy them, despite calling themselves chosen elites. Their vicious thinking is no different from the criminals Serena knew in the underworld. 3 hired assassins enter the Violet residence, confident that overwhelming a single schoolgirl will be easy. They dismiss the mansion's security and treat the mission like a quick job, requiring only minimal insurance. Serena greets the intruders as though they are visitors arriving for an evening trade. Her calm farewell comes before they realize that the target has already taken control of the room. The assassins attack together, but Serena moves through them with effortless precision. Years of noble life have not dulled the instincts that once made her a professional killer. When the fight ends, Serena notes that Hera scraped the bottom of the barrel. These men are no better than the disposable assassin sent after Evan, and were never capable of threatening her. One intruder remains barely alive, choking on blood. Serena feels neither fear nor pity and suddenly wonders how many people she has killed. And when killing first became as ordinary as breathing, she searches her memories for the beginning, but there is no clear first face or moment. Blood, gore, and death blurred together so completely that she cannot remember ever feeling uncomfortable. Even now, the familiar emptiness remains. Since the bodies are merely trash left by Hera, Serena decides the most appropriate disposal is to return the message directly to its sender. Rick's cleaners arrive with cheerful professionalism. Returning every corpse would be excessive work, so they decide to send only the severed heads and remove the rest before Serena needs to worry about it. The cleaners belong to a dark guild specializing in flawless garbage disposal. Within minutes, the bloodied room is spotless, leaving no sign that 3 assassins ever entered. As Tigger wipes the remaining blood from Serena, he warns that Hera will not abandon the hunt. Serena tells him to change her clothes and clean her first, treating the attempted murder as another inconvenience. Tigger notices that the cloth is soaked through and must be thrown away. The casual remark sends Serena's mind back to a fate she once accepted without question. In her previous life, Serena's dead body would have been dumped with the garbage, filthy and anonymous. Such corpses were common enough that no one would have spared her a single glance. Now she wonders what Tigger would do if she died or became useless. Would he discard her just as easily, wipe away the blood, and return to life without looking back, despite calling her more valuable than riches? Tigger notices the sudden distance in Serena's eyes, and asks whether something is wrong. She cannot bring herself to voice the fear hidden beneath the question. Serena says it is nothing, only for a scream to tear through the mansion at dawn. The returned package has finally reached the person who ordered her death. Hera awakens to find severed heads arranged across her bed. The assassins she sent have come home, but only as a grotesque warning soaked into her royal sheets. The concubine's terrified screams summon the entire palace. She recognizes the faces and realizes that Serena not only survived, but knows exactly who was responsible. Hera cannot understand how a supposedly sheltered girl killed trained assassins, infiltrated the heavily guarded palace, entered her private bedroom, and left the heads without being seen. Every assumption she made about Serena collapses at once. Servants rush Hera into another room and order a bath prepared. She insists she is unharmed, yet her body is drenched in blood and panic has stripped away every trace of royal dignity. The maids ask whether she has any idea how the heads appeared. Hera orders them removed and claims ignorance, already knowing that every future assassination plan may bring an even worse answer. Even while demanding help with the bath, Hera cannot stop trembling. Her attendants obey, but the invisible threat inside the palace has made safety itself feel impossible. Hera clutches her gown and vows that Serena Violet will pay. The promise sounds powerful, yet fear has already replaced the certainty she once carried. 1 month passes after Heinrich and Rosemary's engagement is annulled. Serena returns to ordinary academy life, though the political damage continues spreading through both houses. Alto brings the matter before the king and forces the royal family to apologize publicly to House Violet. Heinrich loses standing, Hera is heavily fined and confined to her room indefinitely, and the king seems relieved to end the disastrous engagement. Heinrich refuses to disappear completely. He trains with Evan, and declares that he will regain his honor. Not because his brother's teasing matters, but because he wants Serena to acknowledge him. Evan realizes the obsession remains. Heinrich has not abandoned the dream of winning Serena. He has simply decided to become strong enough that she can no longer dismiss him. At home, Alto finally addresses Rosemary's behavior. Her bullying, false accusations, an entourage of young men cannot be ignored, and Amaryllis can no longer protect her from consequences. Rosemary receives two choices: return to commoner life with financial support for 1 year, or enter a strict monastery to be re-educated. Alto's offer is generous, but neither path resembles the royal future she imagined. She must decide by the next day, or Alto will choose for her. Rosemary breaks down, asking why everyone dislikes her when she was always told she was cute, special, and loved. Serena says neither Alto nor Heinrich is the real problem. Rosemary's astonishing self-esteem rests on the belief that affection is guaranteed, and she has never considered whether her own actions drive people away. No one can be loved by the entire world, and the approval of faceless crowds has no value. Serena tells Rosemary that there are still people who genuinely care for her, and those are the ones she should have watched. Rather than obsess over everyone who rejected her, Rosemary must choose what comes next. Seeing Bruce nearby reminds her of the family that welcomed both an orphaned girl and her dog when they had nowhere else to go. Rosemary remembers Amaryllis calling their meeting fate and asking her to become a daughter of House Violet, with Bruce joining the family too. For the first time, she sees that the love she wanted was already offered long before any prince appeared. Sometime later, Serena attends a royal hunting festival with Evan. She finds it strange that noble ladies are expected to watch men risk their lives against beasts in the name of romance. To Serena, the festival is another blood sport disguised as courtship, where men offer trophies to women they love. Evan joins her, and she dryly questions why affection requires anyone to endanger himself. Evan asks whether Rosemary has already left. Serena confirms that her sister chose the monastery, an institution infamous for strict education and for receiving troublesome noble daughters whom families cannot control. Rosemary may return after completing her training, though the years could make marriage difficult. Evan calls the punishment whore, while Serena insists it is necessary to rebuild Rosemary's lifestyle and personality from the ground up. Evan promises that whatever he hunts will be offered to Serena. She hesitates, still uncertain how to respond, when someone willingly places effort and danger at her feet. He gently removes a small insect tangled in Serena's hair and apologizes for touching her. The intimate gesture leaves them standing far closer than either intended. Despite claiming they barely know each other, Scarnett witnesses the moment and remarks that Serena and Evan looked unusually close. Serena insists they are only friends, but Scarnett's strained smile reveals another painful source of jealousy forming at the academy. Scarnett warns Serena to show more restraint, or risk repeating Rosemary's mistakes. Then she cruelly describes the former orphan as greedy and vile, claiming House Violet's charity was wasted on a commoner who took noble kindness for granted. The speech reminds Serena of people from her old life who called themselves charitable. One noble once gave the starving child bread, expecting gratitude simply because he had chosen to notice her suffering. Serena remembers hating every second of it. The man forced his so-called kindness on her, then demanded thanks, turning bread into another chain and pity into a performance for his own satisfaction. Killing intent briefly rises from Serena before she suppresses it. The memory exposes how fiercely she despises charity offered for praise, even when the people around her cannot understand why Scarnett's words cut so deeply. Then Serena recognizes the difference. Amaryllis never adopted Rosemary to be thanked. Her mother helped because she genuinely wanted the girl to live, asking for nothing in return. And Rosemary's choices turned that kindness into tragedy. Before Serena can study Scarnett's strange behavior any further, a terrified scream erupts from deep inside the forest. Conversation stops, birds scatter, and the Hunk Festival's elegant calm collapses under the first unmistakable sign of disaster. Serena smells blood and realizes several ladies wandered near the forest entrance after becoming bored with the tea party. A wounded survivor appears, begging for help, while something enormous moves behind her. A giant monster bursts from the trees. The creature should never have reached the protected hunting grounds, proving that the attack was planned rather than accidental. Elsewhere, the mechanism is revealed. A desperate noble was given a special flute by Hera. She was promised relief from debt if she blew it near the forest once the festival began, supposedly as part of a surprise event. The pawn believed the concubine had shown kindness to her fallen household. She never realized the flute would lure monsters toward unarmed noblewomen and turn the festival into a massacre. Countless beasts flood the grounds while only a few guards remain near the ladies. Evan has already entered the forest to rescue people, leaving the survivors trapped between panic and approaching claws. The royal knights notice how urgently Evan speaks about Serena and ask whether she is his intended prize. He deflects by mentioning her connection to Rosemary, but his concern is far too personal to hide. Evan has investigated every rumor surrounding Serena. He knows about Bruce, the knight she threatened, and the servants who call her arrogant and cold. To him, the real problem is a household careless enough to spread slander about its own heiress. The deeper Evan looked, the more fascinated he became. Serena stabbed a dog that attacked her, pointed a blade at a disrespectful knight, and survived despite being raised by a scatterbrained duchess who never understood her. He remembers the first day he saw Serena leap over the mansion wall and land as lightly as an angel. That impossible sight marked her as someone who could never be an ordinary noble girl. At the same time, Serena carries the deadly presence of a seasoned killer. Every new report should have driven Evan away, yet each mystery only made him more determined to understand her. Evan even dreams of a girl who resembles Serena, though the memory is too vague to grasp. Before he can reflect on how romantic that sounds, a messenger reports the monster attack at the ladies' venue. Evan immediately orders reinforcements and emergency medical care. He trusts Serena's judgment and survival instinct, but knows she is also recklessly willing to fight, despite having every opportunity to escape. Royal forces race toward the forest. Evan pushes ahead, terrified that the woman who always chooses survival may have discovered another reason to remain in danger. Meanwhile, Serena cuts through the monsters and asks herself what she is even doing there. Escaping would have been simple, yet her body keeps moving toward danger. Protecting people her old self would have abandoned without a second thought. She watched other noblewomen abandon those who could no longer move without a backward glance. Humans value themselves first, so why is Serena risking her life for people who would never do the same? A panicked noblewoman begs a knight to save her, offering money while another person cries in pain. Their selfish terror confirms Serena's judgment, yet she still refuses to walk away. Tiger reaches Serena and warns that turning her head in this situation is suicide. His weapon is damaged, but his arrival gives her the partner she needs against the largest beast. A direct battle with the giant monster would be impossible for either of them alone. Together, however, Serena and Tiger can create the opening needed to bring it down. The frightened nobles continue screaming that they do not want to die. Serena orders them to stand and move. If they refuse to fight for survival, no rescue will matter. Serena decides she can at least buy enough time for the wounded woman to escape with Tiger's support. Even as she fights, she wonders whether Evan is safe or being attacked somewhere deeper in the chaos. She catches herself worrying about Evan and Scarnet, then angrily dismisses the thought. If they die, weakness should be their own fault. Yet, Serena still cannot bring herself to abandon them. Serena insists she is not protecting anyone. She only needs to defeat the monster to secure her own escape, and if Scarnet survives in the process, that is merely an incidental result. The monster's eyes are destroyed, creating the first real chance to flee. Serena orders everyone to move, while the blinded beast thrashes through the forest. The battle still refuses to end. Tiger calls out to Serena as the wounded monster lashes blindly through the forest, and the two remain between its claws and the fleeing survivor, striking again despite their exhaustion. Tiger takes a devastating hit while protecting Serena. For the first time, her voice breaks as she orders him not to die, exposing how much the supposedly replaceable servant has come to mean to her. Another figure enters the battlefield at the critical moment. Serena can barely understand why he is there before the scene dissolves into violence and blood. Assassins surrounding Evan receive orders to keep him away from their target and finish the wounded. Evan moves before thinking, placing himself between Serena and the attack just as she once did for Rosemary. Serena sees an expression on Evan's face that she never expected. The fear and desperation directed toward her awakens something unfamiliar, and she realizes she is the one who brought that emotion out of him. Tiger stepped forward to protect Serena, and now Evan does the same. Serena was supposed to be the person willing to die, yet two others risk themselves before she can make that choice. The sight forces her back to the night from her first life. She once thought his death meant nothing because the crown prince fled, but looking at Evan now makes her question whether she misunderstood that sacrifice entirely. Fragments of the old battlefield and the present overlap. The nameless knight's face, Evan's body, and Serena's own fear blur together as a connection between two lives finally begins to emerge. Everything becomes hazy, but Serena somehow returns home with support. Reinforcements contain the attack, while Evan receives emergency treatment and is taken away before she can learn whether he will survive. Hera is stunned that Serena escaped alive. She had used the daughter of a lower noble as bait, eliminating the pawn's family at the start of the festival, so the monsters could devour every remaining witness. The only threat is the monster-luring whistle. But Hera used multiple intermediaries and believes no one will trust an underworld figure's testimony. Confident there is no evidence, she vows to kill Serena properly next time. Rick appears inside Hera's room and says he came to return something she dropped. The concubine realizes too late that the guild has followed the chain she thought was safely buried. Rick explains that cautious criminals preserve proof for their own protection. Hera discarded her pawns too easily, so they confessed just as easily. The king will soon receive enough evidence to demand the death penalty. Hera begs to be released, and cries that she does not want to die. Rick tells her she is appealing to the wrong person, because the life she tried to destroy belongs to someone far less forgiving. Serena confronts Hera personally, greeting the royal consort with deadly calm. The hunting festival was a serious challenge, but now the woman responsible stands within reach. Serena regrets not killing Hera sooner, and admits that morality only allowed the nuisance to grow. Evan still has not regained consciousness, but she tries to tell herself that if he dies, it is merely because he lacked the strength to survive. That explanation fails. Serena cannot understand why the thought of Evan dying makes her so intensely irritated, until she becomes certain that Hera and the assassins are the source of the feeling. Serena tells Rick that she may have liked Evan more than she realized. What she cannot tolerate is that a mere insect like Hera laid hands on him, and the admission transforms confusion into murderous clarity. Serena's blade reaches Hera, but Rick stops the execution long enough to preserve the testimony and evidence needed against the entire faction. Forced to leave Hera alive for royal judgment, Serena promises that the consequence will still reach her. Rick delivers a full report to King Rodriguez of Astra. The evidence proves Hera's embezzlement, ties to traitorous forces, and direct involvement in the monster attack at the hunting festival. Far beyond even the king's darkest suspicions, the king orders the knight captain to arrest Hera and every accomplice, using force if necessary. She is seized for treason, bringing her royal ambition to an end beneath the authority she once abused. After conviction, Hera is executed stripped of rank and honor. The royal family refuses her burials in its tomb, reducing the once powerful concubine to the status of a common criminal when the palace finally turns against her. Serena reflects on how contradictory humans are. Some threaten another person's life without hesitation when profit is involved, while people like Evan and Tiger risk their own lives for someone else without gaining anything. She could simply ignore everyone and protect only herself, yet that answer no longer feels complete. Tiger interrupts the spiral by reminding Serena that she has not eaten since the previous day and gently offers her fruit. Rick thanks Serena for staying at the palace overnight, though she clearly has not slept. He never expected her to care so deeply about Evan, while Serena insists the prince was merely a business partner she no longer needs after Rosemary's engagement ended. Rick points out that Evan, who always prioritizes survival and position, willingly risked his life for Serena. That means she was extraordinarily important to him, just as Evan regains consciousness and weakly objects to being called a complete fool. Serena turns toward the bed, and Evan sees an expression he never imagined she could make. The assassin who normally hides behind a controlled smile now looks fragile, relieved, and openly shaken. Tears slip down Serena's face before she even understands what they are. She can only stare at the moisture falling from her eyes, stunned that Evan's survival has drawn out a reaction her old life never allowed. Evan asks why Serena seems to know only humanity's ugliness. People can be selfish and cruel, but they can also devote themselves to others until sacrifice feels natural. Serena quietly admits she may simply have never been treated kindly before. The distance between them disappears for a moment. Evan reaches towards Serena with tenderness rather than politics, and she does not retreat from the unfamiliar warmth. Rick destroys the emotional atmosphere by laughing at them both. Serena and Evan immediately return to their usual awkwardness, while Rick declares that neither of them can read a room despite being endlessly entertaining together. Exhaustion pulls Serena into memories of her first life. She recalls another disciple scolding their aging master to wake, eat, and resume training, while the old assassin burned the belongings of someone who had already died. The master once questioned the path he taught. Since assassins are born into a world that uses them, killing may be the only means they know, but he wondered whether teaching it was truly right, and regretted never showing his disciples another life. His advice was full of contradictions. If survival is mandatory, do not chase righteousness. Serena was more suited to assassination than anyone, yet he hoped she would never understand the true sorrow behind those words. Tiger finds Serena sleeping in an unhealthy place and wakes her gently. She wonders whether her old master regretted burning her possessions after the death of Agent 9956, or whether he mourned every disciple he could not save. Serena realizes her current life may be the world her master wished to give them, a life with choices beyond killing. Tiger tells her that he has no intention of tying her down, and that she may leave whenever she wishes. Yet Tiger himself will remain by Serena's side until she says he is no longer needed. She still does not know whether she follows the right path, but for the first time she can admit that the life she is living is not a bad one. Far away, two royal siblings celebrate receiving permission to study in Astra. They see the journey as a chance to force the world to acknowledge their existence and mock their own king as unworthy of the throne. The younger sister boldly declares that she would be far better suited to rule. Their arrogance promises that the visiting students will bring more than ordinary diplomatic trouble. Months after the hunting festival, Hera's crimes become public, and House Hines loses its remaining status. Scarlet and her father apologize for their involvement in the schemes and thank Serena for saving the girl despite everything. Evan heals without lasting effects and is formally named heir to the throne during a grand ceremony. Serena attends as well, drawn further into the future king's public life, whether she wants the role or not. Evan asks Serena to accompany him on a courtyard walk, because the castle still forbids strenuous activity. He is happy she came, though the possibility that hidden members of Hera's wider network remain active has not been completely resolved. At last, Evan asks why Serena saved him. She cannot provide a clean reason, admitting only that anger overwhelmed her, and her body moved before thought. Serena awkwardly concludes that she has grown to like Evan, and may even consider him her favorite person. She has been thinking about it for a long time, which is why the idea of losing him made her furious. To explain, Serena compares her reaction to a child becoming angry when someone takes a favorite toy. She may like Evan because he resembles the knight from her past, or because he behaves differently from other nobles. She simply values him in her own strange way. Evan is baffled by the path she took to reach that conclusion. Serena admits Tiger said something similar, then asks Evan never to risk himself like that again, because she does not want to repeat the feeling. Evan agrees only if Serena promises the same. He jokes that he needs more training despite already being a capable fighter, because protecting her appears to require considerably more strength. Serena thanks him for saving her and tells him to ask if he ever needs help. Evan bursts into laughter at the unusually sincere offer, leaving Serena irritated by a reaction she cannot interpret. Evan warns that if Serena continues saying such things, he may eventually accept the offer in a way she did not intend. The teasing carries a serious promise beneath it. Tiger appears and warns Serena about a poisonous insect hovering nearby. Meaning Evan, he claims he cannot overlook danger to his mistress and admits he knew the prince was somewhere around the palace. Evan jokingly asks whether Tiger intends to send him back to the doctor, and says they should disinfect later. Tiger replies that protecting Serena is simply a servant's duty, while pretending his hostility is professional rather than personal. The two men exchange unnervingly polite compliments, each smiling far too pleasantly. Serena asks what secret they are discussing, but both tell her not to worry. Tiger privately struggles to understand why the prince he calls Serena's pet, or toy, keeps appearing. Even he cannot explain what is happening between them. Serena says she is glad Evan and Tiger are getting along. Both men deny it instantly, leaving her even more confused about the tension everyone else can clearly see. A formal document arrives from the royal palace, an engagement proposal between Evan and Serena. Alto and Amaryllis ask whether they should accept, knowing the match could bind House Violet directly to the future king. Alto has heard that the two get along and considers Evan sincere and dependable. His only concern is Serena's lack of obvious romantic feeling, so he refuses to rush and leaves the final decision entirely to her. He also recognizes Tiger as a possible partner because the young man Serena rescued has become exceptionally talented. Status remains an obstacle, but Alto does not want his daughter trapped by conventional rules or her own rank. Before the family can resolve the proposal, a second royal letter arrives. This one concerns an international student exchange, forcing Serena into another assignment before she can think about marriage. A notorious pair, known as the Troublesome Siblings, from the kingdom of Reenberg, will soon visit Astra. Their reputation reaches the Violet household before they do. To make matters worse, Serena has been appointed their personal guide. The kingdom expects her to manage two notorious foreign visitors whose presence already promises diplomatic chaos, while also protecting Reenberg's legitimate crown prince. Rick explains that Evan personally requested Serena's support and hopes Astra can build stronger ties with Reenberg's royal family. Serena hears only the hidden commercial profit behind his enthusiasm. The visitor's actually number 3. Prince Shagard is King Rasin's legitimate grandson and designated heir, while the twins Ismail and Aisha are Prince Rain's biological children with Anita, legally attached to her family, House Alaban. Shagard was born when Prince Rain and Lady Shara still appeared deeply in love. The royal family's collapse began after his birth, when Rain's appetites overpowered every promise he had made. Rain soon grew bored with Shara and began an affair with Anita, a Viscount's daughter. Anita later gave birth to the twins Ismail and Aisha, turning private betrayal into a succession crisis. Rain insisted Anita was more than a mistress and demanded that her children be recognized. Shara accused him of trying to create rivals for Shagard and refused to accept his lies. The scandal worsened when Rain questioned whether Shagard was truly his son because the boy resembled Shara more than him. The accusation implied that his lawful wife had committed adultery inside the royal palace. Humiliated and devastated, Shara left the palace alone because she could not safely take 6-year-old Shagard, the recognized royal heir, with her. Rain then presented the twins as successors, using his false accusation to erase the wife and child he had betrayed. Anita and the twins entered the palace under Rain's protection and were presented as royalty while King Rasin was away. When the king returned, he exploded at his son's recklessness and revoked Rain's status as heir. Rasin argued that Shara could not possibly maintain an affair under constant palace scrutiny and the protection of her ducal family. He rejected Rain's accusation and publicly restored Prince Shagard's place in the royal line. The king calls Shagard forward and presents him with a precious gift that publicly affirms his place in the royal line. Rain watches in horror as succession moves beyond him, and the future he expected to control is placed in the boy's hands. Racine gives Shagard a national treasure brooch, worn by generations of kings and traditionally passed to the next ruler. The rubies are said to protect their owner and lead him through danger to victory. King Rasin's decision leaves Serena uneasy. Shagard may be the only acknowledged heir, but Ismail and Aisha still carry royal blood, making them innocent children in the eyes of some, and dangerous rivals in the eyes of anyone desperate for the throne. Rather than exile or execute the twins, Racine keeps Anita and her children inside the palace, under strict supervision. They live as royal wards, but remain legally registered under House Alaban, without an officially recognized place in the succession. That uncertainty is exactly why their visit could become a crisis. If anything happens to Shagard while the twins are in Astra, relations between the two kingdoms could collapse, leaving Serena wondering why such troublesome guests were entrusted to her family at all. The answer lies in Astra's own fractured politics. Heinrich's faction has nearly collapsed after Hera's downfall, but its surviving nobles and former neutrals are already scrambling to win Evan's favor, and several of them belong to Serena's extended family. For all its outward calm, Astra's royal court trusts almost no one. Reinberg is no different, and allowing the wrong noble house near the visiting royals could drag both countries into another power struggle. Because of their alliance, however, the visit cannot simply be refused. Serena suspects King Racine deliberately created this situation to remove the twins from his court. Yet the adults believe she is uniquely suited to handle it. Her intelligence is proven, and the hunting festival showed that she can fight better than most royal knights. That praise only reminds Serena of Scarnet, whose father recently thanked her while boasting about his daughter's bravery. Serena is far less interested in being admired than in keeping the reckless girl, and the infuriating Evan from creating another disaster around her. To Serena's relief, Tiger is permitted to accompany her as additional protection while the foreign guests remain in Astra. With him beside her, she can finally attend school without constantly worrying that someone will force their way past her defenses. 1 hour before the Reinberg delegation arrives, Serena meets Evan for a final briefing. He warns that the visit carries King Racine's hidden intentions, and Serena realizes that the strained relationship among the 3 siblings will be the heart of the problem. Although Shagard is the recognized heir, the twins still possess royal blood. That alone has inspired repeated assassination attempts against him, because if Shagard dies, Reinberg's nobles could use Ismail or Aisha as tools in a new struggle for succession. Serena questions why Racine cannot simply rely on a branch family relative as a backup heir. Evan explains that blood alone is not enough. A distant royal without ability or political support could destabilize the kingdom even faster than the troublesome twins. Evan admits that succession may not matter someday, but for now, Reinberg has no safe alternative. His calm confidence reassures Serena, though his teasing praise quickly makes her suspect that he is enjoying how deeply she has been pulled into this mess. Returning to the real issue, Serena realizes what King Racine wants. Astra must keep Ismail and Aisha close, observe them, and give Racine lawful grounds to remove every remaining succession claim without openly ordering their deaths. The plan is cruelly simple. If the twins behave arrogantly during an official visit, Astra can file a diplomatic complaint, allowing Racine to punish them for disgracing Reinberg and permanently strip away any claim they might have to the throne. Serena cannot ignore how roundabout and hypocritical the scheme feels. Killing them would be faster, yet it would stain Racine's reputation and violate every moral boundary. By letting their own misconduct condemn them, the king can destroy their ambitions without dirtying his hands directly. That is why Serena and Evan have been chosen as Shagard's guards and guides. This is far beyond what an ordinary noble girl should handle, but the royal family is counting on Serena precisely because she is anything but ordinary. The Reinberg delegation finally arrives at Astra's palace. Evan welcomes them as first prince, while Serena steps forward under royal decree as the noblewoman assigned to guide and care for the foreign guests throughout their stay. Serena formally introduces herself as the heiress of House Violet and presents Tigger as her attendant. Her polished courtesy hides sharp vigilance, because every smile in this gathering could conceal a political test. The twins introduce themselves as Ismail Alaban and Aisha Alaban, but their casual order of greeting immediately breaks noble etiquette. Even Serena and Evan exchange a look, realizing that the visitors either do not understand rank or simply refuse to respect it. The insult becomes clearer when Shagard, the acknowledged heir and highest-ranking guest, is pushed into the background while Ismail behaves like the group's leader. Their own attendants look displeased, confirming that this is not an innocent mistake. Serena feels as though Reinberg has dumped its most troublesome royals into Astra's hands. While Ismail excitedly demands a castle tour, Shagard quietly greets Evan with proper respect, making the contrast between the siblings impossible to ignore. Shagard's restrained manners immediately earn Evan's approval. Unlike the twins, he understands the burden of representing his kingdom, and his sincere greeting gives Serena the first sign that the true heir may be the only reasonable person in the delegation. Evan warmly tells Shagard to drop the stiff honorifics between fellow princes, a subtle answer to Ismail's earlier disrespect. He then dismisses the exhausted guests to rest, though the tension beneath his courtesy remains unmistakable. Before leaving, Aisha suddenly asks Evan to escort her at the evening welcome party. The request is brazen enough to shock the room, especially when Serena has already been assigned to accompany him. Evan refuses with a smile, explaining that Aisha was meant to attend with Ismail. Undeterred, she turns to Serena and asks whether she may take Evan instead, forcing Serena to suppress her irritation while reminding the girl to consider her position. Aisha finally backs down, but only after Serena explains that they must avoid misunderstandings during an official visit. The girl immediately proposes a tea parties, so they can become friends, proving that surrendering one demand does not mean she has stopped pushing. Serena cannot reject every request without creating a diplomatic incident, yet she also refuses to face Aisha's shameless persistence alone. She drags Evan into the problem, insisting that he help her handle someone whose complete lack of restraint defies common sense. Evan jokingly suggests his usual anti-idiot solution: let the twins cause trouble, beat them down, and send them home. Serena realizes the brutal idea might actually work politically, while Tiger silently warns them not to take the joke too far. Ismail appears and apologizes for his sister's selfish behavior, but Serena's patience is already thin. She bluntly tells him that if he is truly sorry, he should remove the diplomatic liability instead of joining the chaos himself. With Shagard absent, Ismail starts probing Serena about her closeness to Evan and whether marriage talks are underway. Evan cuts him off before the questions become more intrusive, making it clear that Serena's private life is not entertainment for a visiting noble. Ismail laughs off the rebuke and claims that he is only under pressure to find a partner. Serena points out that crossing an international border does not entitle him to interrogate a woman he has barely met, no matter how far he traveled. Aisha then tries to separate Serena from Evan, suggesting that the princes talk privately while the girls spend time together. When Serena refuses, Aisha attempts to command her, only to be reminded that a lady of a viscount's house cannot order the firstborn heiress of a duchy. Serena delivers the lesson with a pleasant smile, advising Aisha to understand her own rank before giving orders. The humiliation lands cleanly, leaving the foreign visitor speechless while Serena walks away without ever raising her voice. Back in their room, Ismail criticizes Aisha for pushing too hard. She insists that time is limited and explains that every reckless request was a test. By watching Evan refuse her, she has already learned something about the man she intends to target. Aisha admits that pressing her body against Evan failed to shake him, which means ordinary seduction will not be enough. More troublingly, Serena's closeness to him feels dangerous. So Aisha decides that the Duke's daughter must be removed from the equation. Ismail assures her that manipulation is Aisha's specialty. Most men soften the moment she acts sweet and uses her beauty, but Aisha warns him not to become careless. Evan is unlike the fools they have controlled before. Their true ambition is finally exposed. Aisha plans to marry Evan and become Astra's queen, while Ismail intends to seize Reinberg's throne. Together, they swear that no one will ever again treat them as disposable trash from the royal family. Clutching the matching lapis lazuli earrings that symbolize their childhood vow, the twins swear to repay every insult 1,000-fold. Their humiliation has hardened into obsession, and they believe victory over both royal families is the only proof they were never inferior. 10 years earlier, Anita filled her children with grand promises. She told Aisha that she would become the most beautiful girl in the kingdom, while Ismail listened eagerly, desperate to believe that royal blood guaranteed them a glorious future. At first, palace life seemed like a miracle. Their father welcomed Anita and the twins, promised that maids would answer every need, and rejoiced that his wife and children could finally remain by his side. The warmth did not last. The twins soon noticed the servants' cold eyes and concluded that everyone despised them because they did not act like royalty. Determined to win acceptance, they swore to become perfect enough that even the court would have to acknowledge them. Their half-brother Shagard became the standard they hated most. Quiet, gloomy, and painfully polite, he never behaved like the dazzling prince they imagined, yet everyone treated him with a respect the twins could not earn. Anita drove them relentlessly. Their mornings were filled with study, their afternoons with dance and etiquette, and every lesson carried the same command: surpass Shagard, claim the throne, and fulfill the future she had chosen for them. Even when exhaustion left Aisha near collapse, Ismail insisted they continue. If Shagard could endure sword practice, then they had to work harder. Because proving him unworthy was the only path they saw toward replacing him. They convinced themselves that superior knowledge and noble behavior would make their father proud. Yet beneath that confidence was a painful question neither child could answer. Why did all their efforts still fail to earn the acknowledgement they craved? Years later, that desperation curdled into cruelty. At a noble tea party, Aisha was mocked after another girl deliberately ruined her dress and insulted her manners, treating the royal mistress's daughter as someone unworthy of respect. The tormentors continued smiling as they offered a better teacher, knowing perfectly well that Aisha lacked access to the same elite instructors. Shagard approached to help, but the humiliation had already convinced her that the entire court saw her as a fool. Shagard gently offered to clean the stain and stay with her until she recovered. Instead of comfort, his kindness made Aisha even angrier. She was sick of being pitied by the very brother whose position eclipsed everything she had worked for. After countless gatherings filled with the same contempt, Aisha finally broke down and begged Ismail to save her. The twins had begun palace life believing effort would win love, but all they found was ridicule and a growing hatred for everyone around them. Ismail arrived only to lash out at Shagard, accusing the quiet prince of intruding where he was not wanted. Aisha clung to her real brother, while Shagard endured the rejection in silence, unable to understand why his attempts at kindness only deepened their resentment. Ismail turns Shara's departure into a weapon, mocking Shagard as though being left behind proves his own mother found him unlovable. The taunt exposes both the poison beneath Ismail's cruelty and the wound Shagard never learned to answer. The abuse grows vicious. Ismail blames Shagard for his mother's departure and declares that everything wrong in their family is his fault, insisting that none of them can ever be happy, while the crown prince remains between them and the throne. When Aisha returns in a ruined dress, Ismail immediately softens. He orders her to change and promises a gift in his room, becoming the protective brother she trusts, even as his hatred toward Shagard continues to deepen. The gift is a matching pair of lapis lazuli earrings for their shared birthday. Ismail keeps one and gives the other to Aisha, explaining that the blue stone is said to bring happiness to those who overcome hardship. Aisha accepts the promise with tears in her eyes. No matter what fate places before them, the siblings swear that they will survive every trial side by side, and one day seize the happiness the palace has denied them. Their faith rests on one final hope. Their grandfather may favor Shagard now, but he is old. Once he dies, they believe their father's support will be enough to push them toward the throne. If only they can gain a little more power. Back in the present, Aisha enters Astra's welcome party, escorted by Ismail. He reminds her not to be overly forceful with Evan, but she laughs off the warning, insulted that the prince rejected an invitation from someone as beautiful as her. Aisha immediately proves how practiced she is at manipulation. She leans into an ordinary nobleman, flusters him with a smile, and confirms that most men are embarrassingly easy to control when she gives them the attention they crave. Ismail stops her game before it goes too far, and reminds her that they have work to do. Aisha has already selected several lower-ranking nobles as test subjects, planning to use their reactions to judge which powerful figures can be approached next. Because Ismail is her only reliable ally, Aisha cannot risk targeting the highest nobles first. She pretends to be drunk near the wall, waiting for a naive gentleman to rush over and rescue her, only for Serena to notice the trap immediately. Serena calmly informs Aisha that the glass contains alcohol, not juice. Aisha tries to maintain the act, but Serena refuses to let her drink, destroying the performance before the chosen victim can even step forward. Aisha thanks Serena, through clenched teeth, then compares their lives. Serena is the unquestioned heiress of a ducal house, while Aisha has spent years being judged and despised. Unable to contain herself, she asks whether Serena hates her too. Aisha claims that high-ranking nobles either reject people of her background or ignore them completely. As she speaks, a timid young man gathers the courage to help her, unaware that he is walking directly into the honey trap she prepared. Watching him approach, Aisha feels no guilt. In her experience, men only seek quick pleasure and abandon women once things become inconvenient. So she sees them not as victims but as pathetic creatures who deserve to be used first. Later, Serena reports to Rick about babysitting Rienberg's troublesome royals. He can hardly believe the twins are bold enough to flirt with a crown prince and a duke's heiress, then reveals that he has been obsessively developing new weapons in his laboratory. A sudden explosion fills the workshop with smoke and gunpowder. Rick emerges coughing but delighted, asking Serena whether the prototype he gave her proved useful. While she wonders how anyone could call this chaotic invention safe, the weapon is a single-shot flintlock pistol capable of killing from a distance. Serena recognizes its revolutionary potential, but as an assassin she also sees every flaw. Poor accuracy, slow reloading, bulky ammunition, and a deafening blast that destroys stealth. The smoke and gunpowder smell make covert use nearly impossible. Yet Rick eagerly records every criticism. Serena admits he may be better suited to blacksmithing than guild leadership, though his inventions remain dangerously impressive, even when they are not yet practical. Returning to the twins, Rick explains their desperate position. Though legally members of Viscount Alaban's household, few nobles in Rienberg would marry them, trapping Aisha and Ismail below the status they believe royal blood should guarantee. That is why they came to Astra hunting for higher-ranked spouses. Evan and Serena are perfect targets, and Rick confirms that the item Serena secretly requested is finally complete, giving her a discreet answer for whatever trouble the twins create next. Rick presents what appears to be an elegant folding fan. Its frame is forged from steel, but the edges are blunt, allowing Serena to carry it into official events as a supposedly non-lethal accessory. Serena is accustomed to lethal weapons, so the idea of merely knocking someone unconscious feels strangely difficult. Even so, the reinforced fan gives her a way to defend herself in public without leaving a corpse behind. Rick asks her to test the next pistol prototype while she guards the visiting royals. Serena cannot miss the irony. In her previous life she died trying to assassinate a crown prince. Yet in this life she has been assigned to protect one. Serena prepares to leave, assuring Rick that she will not be hurt. He still warns her to be careful with the steel fan, knowing that in Serena's hands even a non-lethal weapon could become terrifyingly effective. At school, Scarnett excitedly asks about Serena's role as caretaker for Shagard and the exchange students. Tiger introduces himself as Serena's attendant, while Scarnett instantly calls herself Serena's best friend, earning a silent, horrified reaction from the girl she has promoted without permission. The exchange program begins with a formal welcome in the auditorium. Shagard introduces himself as Rienberg's crown prince, with quiet restraint, his subdued manner drawing immediate attention from Astra's curious students. The room reacts with surprise at how little enthusiasm Shagard shows, but the ceremony moves on. Ismail and Aisha are announced under House Alaban's name, stepping forward with far more confidence than the legitimate heir they supposedly accompany. The twins greet the students with radiant smiles and carefully polished charm. Serena can barely reconcile these dazzling figures with the rude, manipulative pair she met at the palace only days earlier. Ismail publicly refers to himself as royalty, despite lacking permission to claim the title, while Aisha wins the crowd by promising fun and friendship. Evan's expression darkens, but the students are already captivated by the beautiful visitors. Serena expected their status to draw attention, yet their extravagant ballroom-like clothes make them impossible to ignore. When Scarnett comments on Serena's plain dark outfit, Serena simply says that she values comfort and freedom of movement. Scarnett and Tiger silently agree that Serena is completely unaware of her own appeal. Dressed for practicality rather than attention, she begins her temporary school life beside the visiting royals, without realizing how striking she appears to everyone else. Within days, the Alaban siblings begin building a network. High-ranking nobles keep their distance because they understand the political danger, but many lower-ranking students crowd around the twins, hoping royal connections will bring future rewards. Serena knows ignorance cannot explain all of their success. Some low-ranking nobles wisely stay away, proving that the situation is obvious to anyone with common sense. The students rushing closer are simply fools unable to read the room and possible future liabilities. Shagard chooses the opposite strategy, making himself nearly invisible in every crowded room. Serena understands why he wants to avoid notice, but a crown prince with no allies and no visible protection cannot secure either his position or his life. Because Shagard disappears so easily, Serena plans to watch him herself and leave Tiger with the twins whenever necessary. The more she observes his neglected retinue, the more unbelievable it seems that Reinenberg sent its heir abroad with so little protection. After school, Serena finds Shagard limping towards the carriage. He claims that he merely tripped and insists the injury is nothing, but his hurried retreat and strained smile tell her that something far more deliberate has happened. Tiger reports that Shagard emerged from the bathroom with Ismail and already looked injured. Serena orders Tiger to watch the twins, while she secretly monitors Shagard, determined to discover what the crown prince is too frightened to say. The next morning, Serena arrives at school with her usual calm greeting. Aisha is already waiting, wearing the bright smile she uses whenever she intends to force another unwanted connection. Aisha abruptly calls Serena by name without honorifics, and proposes that they become friends. Serena refuses without hesitation, stating that the relationship offers her no benefit, and privately wondering how quickly murder would end the annoyance. Aisha erupts, insisting that friendship with someone of royal blood should benefit any duke's daughter. Serena silences her with a sharp rebuke, pointing out that Aisha is the one disrespecting House Violet, while demanding privileges she has never earned. Serena sees through the sweetness completely. In her former life she studied honey traps, and knows that Aisha despises the men she manipulates, treating every admirer as a disposable tool rather than a person. With a chilling smile, Serena advises Aisha to use her brain before testing her again. One of Aisha's admirers rushes forward to defend her, but Serena's quiet threat makes it clear that anyone joining this game may regret it later. Aisha instantly plays the innocent victim rescued from a villainess, displaying enough talent that Serena almost admires her. Another noblewoman warns Aisha that a viscount ranks far below a duke in Astra, yet Aisha merely laughs as though she is the one being threatened. Ismail intervenes with a polished diplomatic apology, blaming Aisha's behavior on nerves during her first foreign mission. He asks House Violet to maintain friendly relations, though everyone present knows that opportunity vanished the moment his sister began provoking Serena. Trying another route, Ismail offers Serena a meal at a famous restaurant as an apology. She refuses immediately, but he keeps smiling and searches for another excuse to spend time with her, proving that the siblings' pursuit is far from over. Hidden in the ceiling, while monitoring Shagard, Tiger radiates murderous intent at Ismail's flirting. Evan is apparently just as furious, forcing Serena to mentally beg both men to control themselves before a diplomatic visit becomes a crime scene. After failing to capture Serena's attention, Ismail turns his charm on the other students and quickly gathers a circle of noble ladies. His looks and carefully chosen connections are already creating the influence he needs inside Astra's academy. Aisha builds her own fan club, using admirers as a barrier that makes approaching her difficult. Serena realizes the girl keeps provoking her, because ordinary manipulation fails on both Serena and Evan, so damaging Serena's reputation has become the next tactic. Evan, however, cares nothing about gossip and casually asks Serena to walk with him. Tiger cannot join because he is watching Shagard, and when Serena notices Evan's serious expression, she realizes something has happened. Before Evan can explain, Serena spots Shagard and Ismail together in the distance. The scene instantly confirms her worst suspicion, and she rushes toward them before another accident can be hidden behind Shagard's silence. Serena finds Ismail tormenting Shagard and clamps a hand over the aggressor before he can continue. She waits just long enough to see whether Shagard will resist, but the crown prince hangs like a puppet with cut strings, offering no defense at all. Ismail has grown bolder, because the lower-ranking nobles he recruited now support him, treating his royal blood as permission to brutalize anyone beneath him. Evan is furious that Serena watched for even a moment instead of intervening immediately. Serena coolly argues that Shagard's choices have nothing to do with them, and that charging into every injustice only invites unnecessary risk. Evan cannot accept that answer, reminding her that ordinary nobles do not simply stand by while someone is beaten. Evan points to the hunting festival when Serena saved him despite every reason to flee. She insists that eliminating the monster was merely practical and that his rescue was incidental. but Evan has heard that same excuse too many times to believe it. Even Serena's classmates understand the truth. She had the option to abandon them and chose not to. Evan presses the contradiction until Serena is forced to confront a kindness she keeps disguising as calculation. The realization unsettles Serena. She claims that weak people who refuse to help themselves do not deserve unnecessary effort, yet her words sound less convincing, even to her, as though the person speaking is no longer the assassin she remembers being. Evan struggles to understand her. One moment Serena is unexpectedly kind, and the next she becomes brutally cold. Raised in a powerful ducal house, she should have lived free of hardship. Yet, something inside her has clearly been twisted by experiences no one knows. Serena Violet stands before him wearing the same composed mask, but Evan can no longer accept it at face value. He asks what she truly is, and Serena realizes that his eyes are beginning to reach places she has kept hidden from everyone. Turning back to Shagard, Serena demands that he stop pretending not to understand. She hates the empty look of someone who has surrendered to everything, especially when he is perfectly capable of defending himself. She exposes the truth with clinical precision. Shagard has trained in self-defense and positioned his body to avoid serious injury. He could have defeated Ismail whenever he wished, meaning his helplessness is not weakness but a deliberate refusal to fight back. Shagard remembers a childhood filled with absence. His father was rarely home, and his mother Shara sat alone day after day, her loneliness deepening until the young prince could no longer understand how to comfort her. Whenever Shagard promised to remain by her side, Shara would pull him close and apologize through a fragile smile. Even as a child, he sensed that her love was mixed with pain he could not heal. The court whispered that Prince Rain had brought his mistress, Anita, and her children into the palace, though marrying her officially was impossible because of her low status. Everyone understood that Rain's affection belonged to Anita, leaving Shara a wife in title alone. Despite telling Shagard that everything was fine, Shara grew more exhausted and volatile. She struck him, called him a disappointment, and blamed him for failing to defeat Anita's children, then collapsed in horror when she saw what her anger had done. Shagard continued caring for her, even after the abuse, asking whether her injuries hurt and urging her to rest. Shara finally snapped, screaming that she was tired of everything, including the son who kept trying to save her. Her true despair poured out at last. Shara had loved Rain, yet he valued her only as a lawful wife and heir-bearer. To her, Shagard became part of the chain binding her to a loveless fate she could no longer endure. Shara chose to leave the palace and begged Shagard not to stop her. The terrified child pleaded to come along, or at least not be abandoned. But his mother walked away because taking the crown prince would have placed both of them in immediate danger. Back in the present, Serena tells Shagard that he is far stronger than he pretends. With practical experience, he could easily defeat Ismail, yet Shagard asks what victory would change when everyone already despises him, and resistance would only complicate the conflict. Serena refuses to let him hide behind that excuse. Even without support, Shagard remains the rightful crown prince, but he has assigned no value to his own life. He possesses everything needed to survive, except the belief that he deserves love. Shagard says he cannot understand why Shara left him. Serena answers that taking a crown prince away would have invited royal pursuit and possibly her death. Even if they escaped, a single mother raising a child as commoners would face crushing hardship. When Serena asks whether he truly wanted Shara to choose that miserable future, Shagard finally shouts no. His perfect composure cracks, and Serena points out that his mother may have abandoned him precisely because she saw no safe way to take him with her. Serena forces him toward a choice. He can leave Shara alone forever, or he can find her and demand an answer, even punish her for abandoning him, if that is what his heart requires. What matters is that Shagard finally decides his own future. Shagard explains why he has remained passive. With his grandfather occupied and rumors surrounding Shara's supposed infidelity, Anita used every weakness against him. The twins were accepted as Rain's children, while Shagard became the prince whispered to have been born from an affair. If those rumors were proven, Ismail and Aisha would gain legitimacy, and Anita could become mother of the next king. As long as that possibility exists, servants and nobles avoid helping Shagard, fearing that defending him will offend the faction preparing to replace him. Shagard admits he avoided his grandfather because shame made him doubt even his own origins. He could not bear to reveal such weakness, so he isolated himself instead. Serena sees at last that his silence is built from humiliation, not indifference. A memory of sword practice shows how the twins exploited that silence. Ismail mocked Shagard's poor performance, even kicking him during what was supposed to be training, while Aisha cheered as though her brother's cruelty were harmless fun. Shagard knew it was never a real duel. Ismail only used him as an outlet whenever palace life frustrated the twins, and Shagard accepted the blows because resisting seemed certain to create an even greater conflict. Yet Serena's words remain in his mind. She also wants happiness, and happiness requires a choice. For the first time, Shagard considers that enduring abuse may not be the only future available to him. He confesses that he once felt indifferent to who took the throne, but years of insults have worn him down. Being called a useless orphan abandoned by his mother has taught him that no one in the palace cares what becomes of him. Serena understands the twins as well. Anita constantly told them that Ismail was the rightful heir, but her love was never truly for the children or the king. She craved the status of queen and the power to decide other people's futures. Even so, Ismail and Aisha are also children trapped by adults. They endure hatred throughout the palace and chase the throne because fulfilling Anita's expectations is the only way they know to justify their existence. They never chose this conflict freely. They were manipulated until obedience felt like survival. Serena asks Shagard to consider that weakness before deciding who is truly strong. Then his thoughts turn to the one person who seems able to defy every role imposed upon her, Serena Violet. Shagard cannot know the truth of Serena's past, but he senses that she is no ordinary noble girl. If she were cornered, she would not submit. She would strike back without mercy and erase anyone standing between her and freedom. That night, Serena faces another wave of assassins sent after Shagard. Their numbers confirm how little his father values his safety, and she wonders whether any father can truly authorize so many attempts against his own son. Rick offers a darker theory. Rather than exile Rain and risk him causing trouble elsewhere, King Racine may be deliberately giving his disgraced son enough freedom to destroy himself, and anyone foolish enough to support him. Serena has no desire to eliminate half of Rienberg's underworld, but provoking Rick would be even worse. Between assassins at night and royal guide duties by day, she and Tiger are being treated like machines that never need rest. Rick sends her an improved weapon, the pocket pistol. Small enough to conceal, it contains 2 enchanted stones. One silences the shot, while the other moves ammunition from a special pouch directly into the chamber. After both rounds are fired, the pistol can reload itself from the pouch within a limited range. The ancient magic stones cannot be reproduced, but Rick believes more forgotten artifacts may possess abilities that can be adapted into future weapons. With the pocket pistol, Serena finally gains a fast mid-range option. In her previous life, she killed isolated targets, yet tonight she cuts through waves of enemies and remembers the knight who once slaughtered assassins just as efficiently to protect his prince. The attackers are third-rate killers unable to judge their opponent's strength. Serena tears through them so effortlessly that they panic over the strange weapon in her hand, while she wonders whether peace has made the assassins of both kingdoms embarrassingly weak. When the last enemy falls, Serena calmly decides the cleanup can wait. She finally has a day off tomorrow, and after nights of bloodshed, the prospect of doing absolutely nothing feels almost luxurious. Her rest begins with tea at Amaryllis's invitation. Her mother asks about school and whether Serena is enjoying herself, but Serena admits that the academy contains even more annoying people than home, prompting Amaryllis to worry that she may be bullied. Amaryllis has kept a cautious distance since Serena injured Bruce as a child, yet she has recently tried to understand her. Serena recognizes the effort, but still cannot comprehend the warm, absent-minded woman who refuses to give up on their relationship. Amaryllis proposes a shopping trip so they can spend time together. Serena sees little harm in trying, especially if occasional outings can make their strained bond appear and perhaps slowly become something closer to a normal mother and daughter. At the market, Amaryllis eagerly pulls Serena from one fashionable shop to another. Serena usually visits practical commoner stalls and has never cared about her appearance, leaving her unable to judge whether the cute clothes truly suit her. When Amaryllis asks for an opinion, Serena cautiously agrees that the dress looks good and feels relief at choosing the expected answer. Then she notices Tiger glancing away, as though he has spotted something more important than shopping. Amaryllis races toward the next store, but Tiger asks permission to leave briefly for a personal matter. Serena allows it and stays with her mother, trusting him to return quickly despite the unusual request. Tiger disappears into the crowd with practiced ease. Watching him blend into the city, Serena reflects that one step away from noble society reveals an entirely different world, the harsh common streets that shaped her previous life. Most nobles never touch that world. Serena watches an adult exploit a child for a single copper coin, berating him for failing to earn enough, and recognizes the familiar machinery of poverty, working openly beneath the capital's polished surface. The strong prey on the weak here just as surely as they do at court, only with fewer elegant lies. When a suspicious man offers to play with a vulnerable girl, Serena realizes exactly what kind of predator has stepped into her path. Before the predator can touch the girl, Serena crosses the alley and drops his companions in a blur. The remaining thug can only stare as the harmless-looking noblewoman becomes something far more terrifying than any criminal he has ever met. When he lunges again, Serena crushes his arrogance and retrieves the purse they stole. She had planned to spend one peaceful day acting like a proper noble lady, yet violence follows her even into an ordinary shopping trip. Serena offers to take the rescued child to an orphanage supported by House Violet. She admits with brutal honesty that she does not particularly care what happens to him, but helping is what Amaryllis would expect from a noblewoman. And today, Serena is trying to imitate her mother. The child disappears towards safety, just as Amaryllis finds Serena and asks whether her errand is complete. Serena returns the stolen purse without explanation, privately amazed that her mother never even noticed it was missing. The outing ends without a moment of real rest, and the following morning feels no kinder. Serena is already exhausted when Shagard approaches with unusual determination, making it clear that this conversation will not be another polite greeting. Shagard asks Serena for a favor so unexpected that even she pauses. He wants her to teach him how to fight. The timid crown prince who once accepted every blow has finally gathered the courage to seek strength for himself. When Serena asks him to repeat the request, Shagard goes further and asks her to become his master. He tried asking ordinary nobles for help, but none could offer the kind of power he believes he now needs. Shagard knows Serena is not a knight, yet he insists that she is stronger than any knight he has seen. Serena suggests Evan could introduce an excellent sword instructor, but Shagard rejects the idea. The strength he wants cannot be taught by chivalry alone. He is already confident with a sword and understands that a knight's methods have limits. What Shagard wants is the ability to survive attacks that honor-bound warriors cannot predict, which is why he asks Serena to teach him the techniques of an assassin. Serena does not deny what she is. Instead, she asks whether Shagard has considered the obvious danger. Placing himself under an assassin's instruction may end with his blood on her hands. Shagard has considered it and chooses to gamble anyway. Surrounded by people whose loyalty he cannot judge, he needs someone proven by his own eyes rather than assigned by a court. Serena's aura resembles the killers he has faced, only colder and sharper, yet it has never been aimed at him. After surviving repeated attempts on his life, Shagard has learned to judge danger. He concludes that Serena is overwhelmingly powerful but not his enemy, and that combination makes her the only teacher he is willing to trust. His reasoning reminds Serena of the master who raised her in the slums. That man warned her never to trust easily, yet felt both pride and guilt after honing her into a full-fledged assassin, a child taught to kill until violence became the only path she could walk. Perhaps Shagard is about to sink into the same darkness, despite being a prince rather than a slums child. The possibility should repel Serena, but instead it sparks curiosity, and she agrees to teach him the art of killing. Shagard gratefully addresses her as Serena-sensei. To keep the training secret, Serena orders him to meet her at night on the mountain where she once practiced alone, far from servants, nobles, and royal spies. Serena wonders what Shagard will become after mastering assassination. The thought of the supposedly weak prince baring his fangs at those who torment him excites her, and she recognizes the same dangerous curiosity her own master once felt. Tiger accepts the decision but cannot hide his displeasure. Guarding Shagard at night will complicate security and steal the rare hours he spends alone with Serena, though he insists with a straight face that his objection is purely professional. Before training begins, Tiger gives Serena a foreign hair ornament called a kanzashi. Its elegant design conceals a sharpened tip, allowing her to wear it openly and use it as an emergency weapon. Serena reminds him that Rick already supplied a steel fan after her previous ornament was lost. Besides, she can kill with almost anything, even a pen, making another hidden blade unnecessary. But Tiger insists that preparation is never wasted. The casual statement that Serena can murder someone with a pen leaves Tiger speechless. She accepts the kanzashi anyway, and promises not to lose it, while he asks her to avoid treating her own life as cheaply as the lives she once took. Serena answers that murderers rarely receive peaceful endings. She expects to die by another person's hands someday, and if that fate cannot be avoided, she would rather the one who kills her be Tiger. She remembers that her previous life also ended beneath someone else's blade. Reincarnation has made her a noble daughter, but she remains an assassin, so she assumes the same violent conclusion will eventually find her again. Tiger refuses to accept that future. He will not let anyone kill Serena, even if carrying that promise means they both bear each other in their hearts forever. He remembers nearly dying during the monster attack, and knows Serena would have felt the same rage he felt when Evan was endangered. If someone else ever takes Serena from him, Tiger is not certain what he might become. Serena sees the danger beneath his devotion, yet she does not retreat. Death itself has never frightened her, as much as losing control of her own fate. Their grim understanding becomes a promise. Should the day truly come when Serena cannot escape death, she asks Tiger to be the one who ends her life, and he accepts with a smile far too tender for such a terrible vow. The intimate moment shatters when Shagard suddenly calls out from nearby. Serena turns with perfect composure, but the prince has clearly seen enough to misunderstand everything. Shagard assumes Serena and Tiger share a secret romantic relationship and awkwardly promises to support them if Serena is happy. Tiger, meanwhile, wonders whether the crown prince has discovered Serena's assassin identity, and briefly considers whether killing him would solve the problem. Serena quickly clarifies that she did not kiss Tiger, while Shagard explains that he only saw them standing close and touching. Even so, he asks whether hiding such a relationship is wise, when Rick and Astra's dark network will eventually learn the truth. Tiger flatly refuses to let Shagard get close to Serena, though the prince cannot decide whether the pair are genuinely devoted or simply enjoy tormenting each other. Serena and Tiger answer in perfect sync, proving how deeply their strange bond already runs. Training begins under the moonlight. Serena tells Shagard that rank means nothing on the mountain, then orders him to spar with Tiger so she can measure his current ability without royal courtesy protecting him. Shagard draws his sword and charges. Serena has watched countless knights fight in both lives, but the prince's stance reveals more experience than his meek behavior ever suggested. Most knights proclaim their names, reject tricks, and pursue a beautiful ideal of combat. Tiger is different. Like the nameless knight who killed Serena in her previous life, he has crossed beyond chivalry into battles where survival matters more than honor. As Shagard focuses entirely on Tiger, Serena stops the match. An assassin may be hiding nearby, she warns, or several enemies may attack at once. Fixating on a single opponent is an invitation to die. Knights rely on predictable sword forms, but assassins exploit every sense and every opening. Serena orders Shagard to remain aware of his surroundings while Tiger continues, and Tiger begins targeting the prince's vital points without hesitation. Although Shagard knows it is training, genuine killing intent freezes his muscles. Serena explains that fear cannot be dismissed on command. He must grow accustomed to it, because Tiger has been ordered to strike with enough conviction that every mistake feels fatal. The lesson ends only when Shagard can no longer hold his sword. Serena warns that in battle, the instant his weapon falls is the instant he dies, then orders him to return tomorrow and face the same ordeal again. Shagard comes back the following night, despite every bruise. Serena admits that he has more courage than she expected, while Tiger takes his place without mercy and begins the next round. Serena commands Shagard to deflect rather than merely block, control his breathing, avoid matching a stronger opponent head-on, and never depend only on sight. Tiger's relentless attacks force every lesson into the prince's body, Tigur's killing intent is so focused that even Shagard asks whether he has done something to earn such hatred. Tigur replies that he hates anyone who dares approach Serena, so the prince should not imagine the hostility is personal. Beneath Tigur's cold crimson eyes, Shagard sees burning devotion. This is not the emotion of an ordinary servant, but the fierce loyalty of someone whose entire purpose has become protecting his master. The discovery fascinates Shagard. Serena and Tigur are frightening, contradictory, and unlike anyone in the palace, yet that strangeness is precisely why he cannot stop watching them. Serena explains that assassins survive by appearing harmless until the moment they strike. An enemy may be an adult, a servant, or even a child. Hesitation over appearances gives the killer enough time to end the victim first. In their world, the person before Shagard is not merely human but an enemy. Survival requires defeating that enemy completely, and choosing the assassin's path means accepting the possibility that victory will demand a life. A coward without resolve dies a miserable death. Serena asks whether Shagard is prepared to kill another person, and after confronting the terror behind the question, he answers yes and chooses to continue. His movements become stiffer under the weight of Serena's words, but she refuses to soften the truth. Whether the target is a baby or an adult, an assassin who hesitates may fail the mission and die. So killing intent must be certain before the blade moves. Shagard trembles, slows, and falls again and again. Yet he never stops challenging Tigur. By the end of each night, bruises and cuts cover his body. His clothes are soaked with mud and blood, and still he returns. After several days, Shagard finally remains standing. Serena decides that he is ready to leave basic sparring behind and announces the next stage of training. She blindfolds him and orders him to descend the mountain alone. Hiding one's presence is fundamental for an assassin, but detecting hidden danger matters just as much, especially when a skilled killer may attack without warning. The descent will strengthen his body, concentration, and awareness all at once. Serena and Tigur follow while concealing their presence, ready to intervene only if a genuine threat appears, leaving Shagard to solve every ordinary danger himself. Without sight, even a simple path becomes terrifying and exhausting. Serena explains that battle offers no rest, so Shagard must sharpen every remaining sense until he can respond instantly to an attack, no matter how tired or frightened he becomes. Shagard's new routine is merciless. Every night he climbs the mountain, spars with Tigur until his body fails, then descends blindfolded before dawn. By the time school begins, simply remaining upright has become another form of training. Exhaustion cannot silence his curiosity about Serena. No ordinary duke's daughter should understand assassins so deeply or possess such strength, though repeated attempts on her life may explain part of it. As one of Evan's potential fiancé, she has survived a world Shagard can barely imagine. During school sword practice, Shagard tries to conserve what little stamina remains for the night's training. Ismail notices his restraint and eagerly challenges him, expecting another easy chance to humiliate the brother who never fought back. The next chapter of Shagard's growth begins exactly where his old suffering used to repeat. Ismail steps forward with a confident smile, certain that the timid crown prince will once again become his helpless target before the watching students. This time, Shagard accepts. Serena's special training keeps him from being blown away by the first strike, but the gap in raw strength remains enormous, forcing him to rely on technique rather than pride. Serena's lessons echo through his mind. Never take a stronger opponent head-on, parry, redirect and strike where power cannot follow. Shagard changes the angle of Ismail's attack, and finally creates an opening. Ismail admits that Shagard has improved, then sneers that improvement is not victory. He presses forward, convinced that a few clever movements cannot overturn years of dominance. Shagard comes within a breath of turning the match around, but his fear of Ismail still slows the final counter. He loses, yet his movements were undeniably better, and even his opponent can no longer dismiss him as completely helpless. Every brutal night on the mountain has begun to pay off. For Shagard, the defeat feels more meaningful than any hollow victory, because it proves that the person everyone called useless can still change. Ismail tries to conserve his pride by mocking Shagard for speaking intimately with Serena. Shagard realizes the jealousy comes from seeing Serena beside Evan, and privately notes that Tigur would never allow someone like Ismail close enough to trouble her. Ismail claims Serena is only kind because she pities a failure. Shagard rejects the shallow judgment, pointing out that Ismail barely knows her, despite speaking as though he understands every thought behind her actions. Then Shagard reveals that he deliberately took the first hit. Ismail's expression falters as the supposedly weak prince shows that even his pain can now be part of a calculated strategy. Shagard warns that repeated attacks from Serena and Tigger have made him far less defenseless. More importantly, injuring a recognized member of the royal family could cost Ismail his head, and their disgraced father has no authority to overturn such a sentence. Ismail protests that Rain is Shagard's father too, but Shagard finally rejects that bond. King Rasen stripped Rain of his succession rights after Rain abandoned him first, so Shagard feels no obligation to preserve a family that discarded him. Shagard adds that Serena would never pity him, casually calling her by name. Ismail seizes on the familiarity, demanding to know when a crown prince and a duke's daughter became close enough to abandon formal titles. Shagard calls it a figure of speech, but Tigger's killing intent immediately fills the air. Serena's bodyguard is supposed to protect him, yet Shagard increasingly suspects the man may murder him simply for standing too close to Serena. A message arrives from Serena canceling that night's training so Shagard can rest. Instead of relief, he feels anxious and strangely lonely, jealous that Tigger spends every day beside her, while he cannot even admit how much he values their brief nights together. Unable to sleep, Shagard realizes his body has already adapted to the routine. Then he senses multiple presences around the mountain, the assassins who never appeared, while Serena trained him have chosen the one night she is absent. The killers are stunned to find him awake, but Shagard remembers Serena's first rule. An assassin wins before the fight begins by remaining unseen and controlling the situation. He forces himself to judge their positions instead of panicking. These enemies are stronger than any assassins Shagard has faced before. He realizes that only a few weeks earlier they would have killed him instantly, and he cannot tell whether Anita or his own father sent them. Just as the attack closes in, Serena and Tigger emerge. Serena is offended that anyone would think she sent such shoddy killers, then explains that until now they secretly eliminated every assassin approaching Shagard. Their absence tonight was deliberate. From this point onward, attackers of this level will become Shagard's practical combat training. Serena cheerfully notes that his enemies are fortunate to be poor. Richer patrons would have hired competent assassins and ended his life long ago. Serena is visibly delighted by his progress. Starting tomorrow, she intends to let Shagard handle the assassins sent after him, turning each attempt on his life into another lesson in survival. Tigger questions the risk, but Serena rejects the fantasy of absolute safety. If Shagard dies to opponents this week, then he never possessed the qualities required of a king. Protecting him forever would only conceal that truth. Tigger accepts on the condition that Serena keep the danger moderate. He knows she began training Shagard on a whim and possesses no loyalty to Rienberg, but an inconvenient death at the wrong time would create far too much trouble for them both. Walking away, Serena thinks of Shagard as her first disciple. Watching him grow brings an unexpected joy, and she wonders whether her own master once felt the same pride while shaping her into an assassin. Tigger notices that Serena is genuinely enjoying herself and says that seeing her happy makes him happy too. Since reincarnation, Serena has experienced emotions she never understood before. Feelings her former self would have dismissed as weakness. In her old life, she never acted on impulse because survival consumed every choice. Now she has enough freedom to save Tigger and teach Shagard simply because she can. Had either asked her former self for help becoming stronger, she would only have laughed. The realization leaves Serena with a rare, gentle smile. When Tigger asks what she is thinking, she hides the unfamiliar warmth behind a simple answer. Nothing at all. The next morning, Ismail greets Serena with exaggerated friendliness and asks her to call him by name. Serena responds with formal distance, making it clear that she expects trouble from him and has no intention of encouraging familiarity. Serena knows that Ismail's rumors and flirtation are calculated. Most of the high-ranking women he targets are already engaged or candidates for Evan, so provoking jealousy around Serena would play directly into his plan. When Ismail comments on her closeness to Shagard, Serena coldly reminds him of the enormous gap between their positions and states that she has no intention of keeping him as a personal toy. The rejection strikes straight at his pride. Ismail claims he would rather be treated like a beast than ignored, proving surprisingly resilient. Before he can recover completely, Scarnet barges into the conversation and declares that not every man is an animal. Scarnet performs an overdramatic defense of gentlemanly honor, nearly turning the confrontation into a stage play. Serena wonders whether her classmate truly needed to invent such a bizarre performance simply to rescue Ismail from humiliation. Aisha arrives and playfully calls Evan a beast, only for Evan to appear behind her and request every detail of the conversation. His pleasant smile carries enough pressure to make the visitors remember that this is an official exchange, not their private hunting ground. Aisha insists she already has many friends but wants to become closer to Evan. Serena questions whether Aisha truly believes social barriers vanish so easily, reminding her that friendship across rank requires both people to understand their place. Aisha counters that Evan himself could choose otherwise, but he calmly states that he never intended to become her friend. The direct rejection is so cruelly clear that even Serena momentarily wonders whether they pushed the girl too far. Ismail drags Aisha away, muttering that Serena is a truly wicked woman. Serena watches them retreat and suspects the humiliation may drive Aisha into a reckless move. Exactly the kind of mistake King Raisin is waiting for. Shagard observes that Serena has recently started pushing back against powerful nobles, including royalty. She calls it pitiful when the weak pretend to be strong, believing that anyone unable to recognize their own limits will inevitably be crushed. Shagard challenges that belief. If the powerful truly possess strength, he asks, should they not use it to rescue those who cannot protect themselves? To him, that responsibility is the very purpose of nobility. Serena knows how greedy, foolish, and ugly people can be, yet Shagard sees that she still wants to believe some deserve saving. He admits that saving everyone is impossible, but questions whether royalty has the right to choose lives based only on personal preference. Every rescue requires abandoning someone else, and no one can carry the entire world. Even so, Shagard argues that limitation does not justify doing nothing. Serena recognizes in him a kindness she could never fully imitate. She remembers how her master sometimes looked back with regret after taking a child into assassination. Had he known another path to save her, perhaps he would not have dragged Serena into a life where survival and killing became inseparable. Serena now faces the same contradiction with Tiger. She saved him, then bound him to herself and pushed him toward an assassin's path. Calling that salvation may be arrogant, yet Tiger quietly says he can stand beside her today, only because she chose him then. Shagard smiles and points to the proof standing before her. Tiger is someone Serena saved, meaning she truly possesses the power to change lives even when her choices are imperfect. Serena refuses to be converted by such optimism and accuses Shagard of trying to pull her onto his side. He denies having a scheme, but the warmth in his answer makes it clear that he hopes she will someday believe her own compassion matters. Elsewhere, Aisha rages after the rejection. Ismail admits Serena's rare smile is far more alluring than Aisha's usual performance, provoking her until she accuses him of taking his anger out on her simply because Serena insulted him. Ismail argues that Aisha should stop chasing Evan and target a more useful noble family. The lower-ranked friends around her may possess wealth through merchant ties, but their social standing cannot deliver the crown she wants. Aisha fires back that Ismail's own admirers are equally unhelpful, while Evan is already hopelessly devoted to Serena. Her remaining choices are grim: marry into a foreign royal house, or seduce another powerful man inside Reinberg. Though wounded, Aisha refuses to surrender. She returns to her admirers with a fragile smile, deciding that flattering fools are still useful pawns, and exactly the kind of tools she needs for whatever desperate move comes next. Aisha begins her counterattack by approaching Evan's admirers with a wounded expression. She claims she was merely speaking with Serena when the Duke's daughters became hostile, inviting the girls to imagine what terrible insult must have been delivered. Her chosen pawns eagerly swallow the bait. Aisha feeds them a mixture of real incidents and fabricated cruelty, confident that stories about Serena's supposed misconduct will spread through the academy before anyone stops to question the source. From the shadows, Shia reports the operation to Rick. The guildmaster praises her work, already aware that Aisha's little rumor campaign is about to expose far more than she intended. The young nobles who spread claims that Aisha was better suited to Evan because of her royal blood are punished almost immediately. The rumors traveled quickly, but Astra's investigators identified and silenced their authors with terrifying speed. Aisha pretends sympathy when the Academy begins discussing Serena again, but the plan has already backfired. Instead of damaging Serena, every fresh rumor only makes Evan more openly protective, strengthening the very bond Aisha hoped to break. The incident exposes how dangerously uninformed many lower-ranking nobles are. Because they know little about Rhenenberg or the Alaban siblings' actual position, they speak recklessly and follow anyone who promises access to royal favor. Rick's network identifies the students who used violence against Shagard as well. A severe warning is only the beginning. Harming a foreign crown prince may destroy entire families, and Shia expects the Academy to contain far fewer fools by the time the exchange ends. The exchange program was accepted partly, so Astra could uncover dangerous elements within its own nobility while earning Rhenenberg's favor. With time running out, Serena expects the twins to abandon subtle manipulation and resort to something much more forceful. A school swordsmanship tournament offers exactly that opportunity. Participation is voluntary, but aspiring royal knights and ambitious nobles compete fiercely, because members of the Knight Order often attend to scout promising talent. For highborn students, success can become political power long before they inherit their houses. Serena tells Shagard that training only against assassins is not enough. He must also learn how to face knights who may one day turn their blades against him. The tournament will reveal how his skills perform in public combat, and Serena doubts he will die with his current ability. Ismail is entering too, likely hoping to gain results, influence, and new connections. Shagard has hidden his strength for years, but the tournament gives him a reason to reveal it. Serena wants him to crush Ismail's pride in front of everyone, repaying the humiliation he endured while proving that the balance between the brothers has changed. Shagard anxiously asks whether Serena expects him to kill Ismail. She reminds him that assassination and public swordsmanship are entirely different. His mission is simply to fight his best and survive the consequences of being seen. Tournament day draws more competitors than usual. After the monster incident at the hunting festival, the Knight Order is aggressively searching for new talent, making every match a chance for unknown students to change their futures. Evan enters as the royal family's representative and immediately becomes the center of attention. Trained directly by the captain of the Knights, his skill is said to surprise even veterans, and he begins the tournament with effortless confidence. Serena watches the early matches with little enthusiasm. Most students repeat the same basic right-left patterns they have practiced for years, making their attacks so predictable that every exchange feels rehearsed. Evan wins his opening match cleanly, sending the crowd into a frenzy. Serena gives the performance a restrained not bad, while everyone around her celebrates as though the prince has already conquered the entire tournament. After a series of proper but painfully repetitive matches, Evan joins Serena during a break. Scarnett has just praised his victory, yet Serena remains bored by fighting styles so orderly that she could almost clap along to their rhythm. Evan asks to sit beside Serena, provoking an immediate protest from Tiger. When Evan claims the noise prevented him from hearing, Tiger's glare makes it obvious that the excuse will not protect the prince from his jealousy. Evan notices that Serena may be the only student wearing a bored expression during the Academy's biggest event. She explains that knightly combat is easy to read. Attack, defense, and movement all follow familiar structures. Her answer makes Evan wonder whether Serena belongs to a darker world than ordinary nobles. The instincts she displays are not skills a duke's daughter should develop merely by fighting monsters. Serena deflects the question by claiming she learned it in a previous life, then warns Evan not to pry recklessly into another person's secrets. His curiosity is dangerous precisely because he keeps coming close to the truth. Evan asks whether she might join the Knight Order, but Serena cannot imagine killing for loyalty to a master instead of money. She also rejects the image of risking herself to protect strangers, insisting that the hunting festival was never an act of heroism. Before Evan can challenge that claim, Shagard's name is announced. The crown prince steps into the arena, and his opponent is none other than Ismail Alaban. The pairing looks almost too perfect to be accidental. Tiger worries that Shagard's private training may not translate to a formal duel, because Ismail's strength and aggression are very different from the assassins they have used as practice. Serena feels no such doubt. If Shagard loses pathetically after everything she taught him, she will not forgive it. With a cold smile, she waits to see exactly what her first disciple has become. Aisha cheers loudly for Ismail as the match begins. Shagard remembers losing their previous practice because he lacked the resolve to win. The same resolve Serena forced him to confront as the willingness to kill. That fear no longer controls him. Ismail's speed and power remain superior, but Shagard does not freeze. He watches, adapts, and prepares to defeat the brother who once dominated him without resistance. Ismail would have been praised as a martial prodigy if born the legitimate heir of an ordinary house. Yet his style is built from noble and knightly forms without real combat experience, making it readable to someone trained to ignore convention. Serena warned Shagard that Ismail's might use the match to cripple or even kill him while making the injury look accidental. When standard attacks fail, Ismail's expression confirms the warning. He intends to remove Shagard from the succession in front of the entire academy. Ismail grows furious as Shagard dodges every dangerous strike. Each attack drains his stamina, while Aisha's cheers become increasingly desperate, and the crowd begins to realize that the supposed weakling is controlling the pace. Shagard taunts him by asking whether this is truly the best result of all the excellent knights hired by their father. The insult cuts deeply because it exposes the emptiness behind Ismail's pride and expensive education. Ismail explodes, calling Shagard nothing more than royal leftovers abandoned by his own parents. Shagard answers that being loved by their father is the only achievement Ismail can still claim, and even that love may be nothing but manipulation. Shagard sees the twins as victims of selfish adults, just as he was, but pity no longer means surrender. To secure his own safety and repay Serena for guiding him this far, he refuses to hold back again. The duel erupts into its final exchange. Shagard slips inside Ismail's attack with the ruthless precision Serena drilled into him, turning the favored brother's confidence into a fatal opening. Steel flashes across the arena. Ismail's weapon is knocked aside, and Shagard's blade stops at the decisive point before the stunned crowd can even understand how the match changed. The referee declares Shagard the winner. Serena calls the result natural, but her eyes immediately move toward Aisha, curious to see how the girl will react after watching her invincible brother lose to the prince they despised. Aisha can barely speak as Ismail staggers from defeat. Meanwhile, Shagard advances through the bracket until the impossible final is announced. Astra's Prince Evan against Rieneberg's Crown Prince Shagard. Evan remarks on how drastically Shagard has changed in such a short time. Shagard credits an excellent teacher, and Evan immediately suspects Serena. Especially after hearing from his father that she has been secretly training someone. Shagard openly praises Serena as strong, dignified, and unbound by convention. Elsewhere, Serena sneezes without knowing she is being discussed, while those listening conclude that the mysterious teacher has become an extraordinary influence on the prince. The final begins with Evan trying to draw out a reaction, but Shagard refuses to chase the bait. His center of gravity remains controlled, and he constantly tracks the source of each attack, a discipline impossible to master through ordinary practice alone. Evan wants to probe Serena's secrets through Shagard's technique, yet he restrains himself. Pushing too deeply may cause Serena to close her heart forever, and that possibility frightens him more than losing the match. Shagard's body is smaller and lacks the muscle expected of his age, likely because of years of abuse. Even so, the growth he achieved in such a short period is remarkable, and Evan decides there is no need to hold back. A sudden exchange brings the duel within a breath of ending. Shagard learns another lesson in real time. Appearance cannot determine an opponent's physical strength, and misjudging Evan for even an instant nearly costs him everything. Evan ultimately wins, with Shagard named runner-up. The tournament closes to thunderous applause, but for Serena the greater victory is seeing her first disciple stand beside Astra's prince, rather than beneath Ismail's heel. The twins' defeat has shattered the image they tried to build. Serena considers leaving intelligence work to Rick, while quietly giving them room to act. Because desperate enemies often reveal their true plans when they believe one final move remains. In Ismail's mind, Anita's promise returns. No matter what anyone says, He will become king, and Aisha will become crown princess. The words were meant for him, yet they also sounded like a vow, Anita repeated to convince herself. Aisha lashes out at Ismail for losing in front of the entire academy. She blames their grandfather for refusing to recognize their parents' marriage, believing that official legitimacy would have spared them years of humiliation. Ismail sits in silence while Aisha demands an answer. Her anger grows because his defeat was not merely a match. It destroyed the fantasy that strength and royal blood would automatically carry them to the throne. Finally, Ismail turns on her. He admits that he is not fit to be king, then asks whether Aisha has anything to boast about beyond being loved by their father. The accusation strikes the one wound neither sibling can endure. Ismail's frustration erupts into denial. He screams that he is the true king, clinging to the destiny Anita promised him, then points toward Shagard as though the crown prince's very existence is the reason every dream has collapsed. Aisha eagerly follows the accusation, calling Shagard evil and insisting that eliminating him will fix everything. Then she hears a strange sound and finally notices how unstable Ismail has become, asking whether her brother is truly all right. Ismail abruptly regains his composure and apologizes for blaming her. He says he has already written to their parents and allied factions, ordering them to stop wasting assassins on Shagard and commit everything to a new plan he intends to carry out with Aisha. He reminds her of the vow sealed by their lapis lazuli earrings. Together they would overcome every trial, force the people who despised them to acknowledge their existence, and finally claim happiness. Aisha accepts, unaware of how ominous his smile has become. Hidden magic captures Ismail's confession as he tells Aisha that the time is almost here. The recording stone preserves every word about requesting support from their parents and factions, turning their private conspiracy into evidence. Shia delivers the decisive recording to Rick. Their investigation has gathered enough proof to expose the entire faction, though Rick expects Ismail's parents to send one final assassin once they realize their remaining leverage is disappearing. King Rasen may never have intended to execute the twins, but their choices have now closed every path back. Rick recognizes that Ismail sees killing Shagard as the perfect chance to seize the throne, and even Serena cannot deny how pitiful the royal struggle has become. Serena catches herself drifting into sentiment. Whatever suffering created the twins, her duty is to choose the outcome best for Astra. She pushes aside sympathy and prepares to end the threat before another kingdom's tragedy spills across her own. Aisha proposes a final picnic to admire Astra's famous scenery before the exchange ends. The innocent invitation is presented as a chance to deepen relations, but everyone involved understands that the secluded outing will provide the stage for one last move. When Aisha asks Shagard for his opinion, Ismail answers before his brother can speak. Her patience is visibly collapsing, while Evan's controlled response confirms that Astra has already assembled a counterplan around the picnic. Serena warns Shagard privately that Ismail intends to kill him during the outing. Intelligence from assassins hired by Rain confirms that the sightseeing proposal is only an excuse to reach an isolated location where murder can be disguised as misfortune. This time, the confrontation will be a genuine fight to the death. Shagard admits feeling sympathy for the twins after realizing they are weak victims too. But Serena warns that refusing responsibility out of pity is another form of abandonment, and tells him not to disappoint her. The picnic begins beneath clear skies, and Scarnet immediately distracts Serena by pointing out a duck with childish excitement. Serena can only stare, wondering how someone can be so energetic while walking toward a planned assassination. Evan has invited several uninvolved students as camouflage, even claiming Scarnet might become Serena's friend. While Serena questions his judgment, she notices Ismail acting unusually friendly toward Shagard and Aisha, clinging to Evan as though nothing is wrong. Scarnet wonders how the women competing for Evan's attention never grow tired of pleasing him. She asks whether Serena truly has no interest in becoming queen, or even in Evan himself. Scarnet admits that she has not abandoned her feelings for Evan, but the hunting festival changed her ambitions. When danger came, supposed friends fled and even treated her as an enemy, proving that a superficial girl would never survive the demonic battlefield of a royal palace. To become worthy of recognition, Scarnet stopped relying on shallow charm and began changing herself. She still intends to grow into a splendid lady and win Evan's heart, but she now believes Serena is the person most suited to become queen. Scarnett senses that Serena carries a painful past, visible in the lonely expression she sometimes wears. To her, a true queen should understand suffering, show kindness, stand against threats, and possess the strength to protect others. All qualities Serena refuses to see in herself. That is why Scarnett wants Serena to become queen if she herself fails. Serena rejects the idea immediately. Power and status do not attract her, and she trusts people with no hunger for authority far more than those who chase it. Serena imagines queenship as a cage of responsibility and restriction that would scorch her wings and drag her toward the sun. Reincarnation placed her in a beautiful world, but she still believes someone born in the shadows can never become a decent person under public judgment. Scarnett does not fully understand the metaphor, yet she refuses to accept Serena's lonely conclusion. If Serena's wings burn, she says Evan, or even Scarnett herself, can catch her, and they can all fall together with whatever grace remains. Serena calls the idea collective suicide, earning another protest from Scarnett. Nearby, Ismail finally approaches Shard and asks to speak alone, claiming that he needs to apologize for everything he has done until now. As the two brothers step toward a private conversation, the chapter closes on a deliberate cliffhanger. Serena, Evan, Tigger, Aisha, and Scarnett remain close behind, knowing that apology, betrayal, and blood may now be separated by only a single choice.